Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the quarterly board meeting of the EKU Board of Regents. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I ask Madam Counselor to confirm for the minutes that we do in fact have a quorum.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do.
Thank you, Madam Counselor. First item on the agenda is election of officers, and I believe that Regent Castro has a motion for our consideration.
That is correct. I would like to motion for a vote on the next panel of officers for the Board of Regents.
Do you have a recommended slate of officers?
I believe so. I didn't write it down, so I apologize, but I would like to motion that we keep Chairman Diaz as our board chairman, Mr. Long as our vice chair, Mr. Barry Pointer as our treasurer, and this year I would like to motion for Regent Jason Marion to be our secretary.
There's a motion on the floor. Thank you, Regent Castro. Is there a second? Is there a second for that motion?
I can second the motion.
Thank you all. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you all. Next item are the informational items, the university reports, and first on the agenda is the COVID-19 update. We have Dr. Makinen and Dr. Ziegler up on the queue to give us a report about how the university is doing with respect to COVID.
Good morning, Regents. It's certainly a pleasure to be with you this morning and to present a very brief update about our progress for COVID-19. As we are making our way, as we're making our way through the spring, now 2021 semester, we're excited for the information that we have before you today. In the midst of a global pandemic, there is good news. We are here and are continuing to provide our world-class education and instruction to our students and are actively seeing them progress towards their degree completion. And that is certainly exciting with everything that's going on around us. It's important to note that there have been 0 cases of transmission of COVID-19 within our classroom environments, thus showcasing that the decisions that were made early on last year were very impactful in providing a healthy environment for our faculty to teach, our staff to serve, and our students to learn. We are also excited to announce that we are actively looking at in-person commencement activities. The planning is beginning at this time through our registrar's office, through Ryan Wilson, and a committee that's been formed to take a look at that and how we can offer an in-person commencement within the confines of what the governor's office and Dr. Stack have set and will permit to occur. So social distancing and the creation of a healthy environment are certainly paramount in those decisions that are being made. But that's exciting for us to announce that we are progressing forward and we're moving in the right trajectory. We are having expanded opportunities that are being looked at for our fall 21 semester for the in-person interaction. And again, this goes back to an informed decision set that is being made based off the fact of how cases have and have not transmitted within our university community. Again, those structured activities that the university has provided have been very meaningful and have occurred in a healthy manner. And we are going to build and capitalize upon that experience that we've had and continue to expand those offerings in a very meaningful way for our students, faculty, and staff. We are continuing offering remote support services, even though we are going to see in-person or an increase in our in-person class offerings. And certainly we are paying very keen attention to the mental and emotional health of our entire university population, with a focus on our students through the wonderful work that is occurring through our counseling center on campus. And for our employees, are certainly offering through our EAP that is offered through Human Resources at no charge to our employees. I will end for the moment and with, unless there's questions, saying that we are very excited to announce that Madison County now has a mass COVID-19 vaccination clinic here at the EKU Perkins building as a result of the very strong partnerships and relationships that have been built over the years with Baptist Health Richmond, Madison County Health Department, and our local elected officials. I certainly commend Dr. McFadden for taking a leadership role alongside President Greg Gerard with Baptist Health Richmond and Director Nancy Crew with Madison County Health Department in presenting a case to the state for Madison County to have a mass vaccinating clinic and for Baptist Health Richmond to run that clinic. EKU leaning forward with support services for Conferencing and Events Center and our Conference and Events team on campus who do a fabulous job, and we are letting space and support in many other ways so that EKU can showcase that we are here to be a community partner, and more importantly, we're here to serve the needs of our community around us. And what a powerful way to show that than to lean forward and offer up these resources to our local partners so that they can provide vaccinations to our community at large in Madison and surrounding counties. I will end with saying I'm very, very proud of our COVID-19 task force, our contact tracing team who works long days, many hours, and then certainly our leadership team on campus, our president's cabinet and our other leaders for the direction, the care, and the control that's been exercised in getting us to this point in time in a very thoughtful, a very caring, and a meaningful manner. And certainly I'm proud to be a part of Eastern. I hope everyone that is a part of our community is equally as proud of the great work that has been done by a very many number of professionals on our campus and our community. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Regent Castro?
Regent Castro?
Thank you. As you probably are aware, the CPE is unveiling a $1.5 million plan to boost mental health on campuses. We have seen an incredible increase in suicides and also other issues. How are we handling, especially now that we don't have an in-person type thing? Do we have the methodology or the ability to reach out to the students, make sure that they know that they can talk to somebody, at least have that conversation, but at the same time protect them from in-person meetings?
Our counseling center has absolutely been out in front of this, and I'm so very proud of them. They are a wonderful center under the direction of Director Melissa Barch, and she's got an exceptional team. They worked out in advance to do mental health for at least those residents in the state of Kentucky. And still do they still have in-person counseling services based on the needs of what the students' personal experiences are at their time of need. Some do still need in-person services, and the counseling center has moved forward with that in a very safe and a healthy manner so that they can provide those services, but also perform the mental health services. And then there are offerings for those out of state as well, but I'd have to let Director Barch explain what those are. But yes, have leaned forward in a very, very meaningful manner. And then equal on the employee side, there are resources available through the EAP, through Human Resources, and those are available nationwide. Thank you, Regent Castro. Excellent question.
Any other questions for Dr. Makinen or Dr. Ziegler? There being no questions, Dr. Makinen, Dr. Ziegler, thank you. And I know that there's a team of people working alongside you with the COVID-19 response. And in thanking the two of you, I thank all of the people that work to support you and all of the outstanding work that we have done over the last year to respond, to stay open, and to provide outstanding services to our students. Truly, truly, we're grateful and indebted to you. Next on the agenda is Dr. Wasson to provide the student success and enrollment update. Dr. Wasson?
trying to share my screen, but it is not working. Oh, wait, there it goes. Everyone can see that? All right. So I'm going to give you an update on several aspects of student success this morning, including enrollment, retention, some student engagement pieces, and a little bit of financial aid. So this is where our spring enrollment fell. We were at a total of 12,211 students. That was about a 3% decline. There were some increases that I think are important to note. We increased again in eCampus about 5%. When you look at new freshmen and new transfers, we don't get a lot of new freshmen in the spring, but we do get some, and we get a significant number of new transfers in the spring. And when you put those together, there was about a 7% increase in incoming freshmen and transfers this year compared to last year. I think that shows that some students waited out the fall and chose to enroll in the spring instead. And then our graduate enrollment is also up. These numbers don't include dual credit. The overall spring decrease has a couple of factors. One, the shrinking of our student body over time. We've had decreases the last 4 years, and that continues to compound as we go across time. And then the second is retention, and I'll go into a little bit more in depth about the retention piece. Our freshman retention was at 76.4% in December in January coming into retention from December, fall to spring. And we know that fall 2020 was hard for students. We know that it wasn't the college experience that they expected or that they wanted. We also know they struggled academically. 19.8% of our fall 20 freshman class were either suspended or on probation at the end of the fall semester, and that's versus 12% for the prior freshmen. That decrease is not a reflection of the work our students are doing or the work that our faculty and staff are doing. Our faculty and staff are monitoring students more closely. 82% participated in the 4th week progress reports. That's our early alert system. They're referring students to support services more than ever. They're referring students to our dean students for outreach more than they ever have. And so our faculty and staff are working really hard to help students. This is just a really difficult environment. We're really committed. We're going to keep doing it. And we've made some changes in the policies and practices for the fall enrollment to help some of those students who didn't make it to spring come back next fall. We are also increasing some engagement and activities this spring. We listened to the students in the fall. We did lots of check-in surveys with them. About every 2 weeks, they got a little micro tech survey from us saying, how you do and what do you want? And so those survey responses indicated they wanted some increased in-person events. So we've worked really hard with Brian's team to do those events safely. We have more in-person events this semester from our student life, many more from our athletics, because as you know, all of our athletics teams are active this spring except for football. Our rec center is also doing more in-person and group activities. And then our Center for Inclusive Excellence and Global Engagement has also been putting forth some of those activities. We're also planning a signature event to end the year. I've been working with the Student Activities Council, Student Life, and a group of other folks to plan a signature event this year. We're looking at possibly a concert or another kind of performance that will tie in either to Summerfest or closer to commencement. We haven't made a decision on the date yet, but it'll be an event, the kind of event students say they miss, ones that are EKU, that represent what they think about when they think about their time here at EKU. The feedback from students are that our juniors and seniors have missed that this year, and our freshmen and sophomores don't really know what it looks like. So we're going to give them something to end the semester to get them excited about coming back in the fall. Looking ahead to fall 2021, As of yesterday, our overall applications and admits are down, but they are coming up. We're seeing increases in January and February. So our bright spots are that our January, February apps are up. They've outpaced last January and February by almost 20%. And I think that's also an indicator of what I talked to you guys about last time, and that's that the recruitment cycle has shifted some because high schools were closed. Students are waiting a little later to get their materials in. We're also just now getting to, I think we're getting better at reaching those students, and the high school counselors are getting better at connecting us to them. Our high school visits, we have had some high schools open up, yay, and we have counselors going to those high schools over the next few months. And so that's exciting. Once we're in the schools talking to students, creating those relationships, we expect to see those applications increase in those spaces. We have on-campus visits open. We have had them open since May. They have continued to fill up. Our January and February campus visits were nearly maxed out, and our March visits are also filling up super fast. When I look at some other indicators of where we are for fall, financial aid acceptance, we offer students a set of scholarships, and whether or not they accept them is an indicator of whether they intend to enroll. And our acceptances are up nearly 200 students compared to this same time last year. So more of the students who are in the pipeline have accepted their application than normal. Let's see. The in-person orientation, we're offering more orientation sessions this year because of capacity. So those in-person sessions have to be a little smaller, but we are offering more of them. We looked at those orientation registrations yesterday, and many of the in-person ones are already full. So that's exciting. A couple other bright spots are the BookSmart program. We are hearing anecdotally from parents, from guidance counselors, and from students that they're really excited about the program. We've had many parents tell us that they've encouraged their students to make the decision to come to EKU because of that program. And so although our enrollment numbers may not reflect it at this time, I do think the BookSmart program is having an impact on students enrolling at EKU. And then finally, our corporate partnerships. I announced the corporate partnerships initiative with you guys at the last meeting. We announced our first corporate partner is Radio. And since that time, we have we've transitioned a position to the Director of Corporate Educational Partnerships, and that person has already started to engage all of the campus partners and is reaching out now to begin those corporate partner relationships. And so that we have a goal of getting 10 to 12 of those partnerships by the end of this year. So those partnerships are specifically designed to help us increase adult student outreach to our adult student population. And so we're really looking forward to seeing how that impacts our enrollment as well. I talked a lot in our last meeting about the Eastern experience and how important it is for our students. And so we have developed an Eastern experience team. That team is co-led by Danny Moore, myself, and Matt Rohn. And it includes people from across the university, from all aspects of the campus, including admissions, including campus life, and the Center for the Arts, Athletics, the Student Activities Council, El Centro, Brian Mackinnon's team, the Conferencing and Events team, the Finance team. So all of the people who are somehow engaged in the offering of events on our campus, all of those areas are going to come together as a part of this team to build a more collaborative and cohesive student experience, one that pulls together all of the programming we already do so that those things go together. We are creating a process that pulls together not just the scheduling, but the content of those events so that they complement one another. We want to bring together things like the music and performance events from our new Institute for Creative and Collaborative Arts, with 2 to 3 targeted concerts at the Center for the Arts, and supporting those events with complementary things from athletics, from student life, and the rec center. We also want to create a series of what we're calling signature events. Those will anchor that student experience. And we already have some of them, like the Biggie Welcome, like Wreck the Ravine and City Fest. But this is the time to strengthen those events and to start some new traditions and build on the ones that we already have. We're going to hold these events at some of what our signature EKU conferencing and event spaces, like Arlington, the Center, Elmwood, the Whitehall, all of those spaces that are signature to EKU. We want to tie those to these events. In the end, what we want to do is create a new level of excitement around this experience so we can maintain our students' enthusiasm about being a Colonel and build a culture of school spirit and pride in EKU. I want to give you just a brief update on CARES. I know that the president will also cover this in his report, but we get lots of questions about this, so I wanted to present it to you as well. We had 5.2 million in CARES distribution in the spring. We distributed 5.1 million of that. We have about 100,000 left over from that original distribution. Part of that is because we identified students who didn't accept their awards, and so we put that back in the pool. Great news is we can now use the second CARES distribution guidelines to award that money. So we have 5.3 million to award this spring when you add those two together. There was some changed guidance that impacts how we distribute this time. Unlike last time, students can choose to apply their funds to their student account if they desire to do so. And so we've created a process to make that easy for them. And we use similar priority groups. And I think I went over those with you last time, but the guidelines in the award require that we prioritize students who have financial need. And we define that need as, according to usual standards, Pell eligibility, but also those who indicate financial instability by having recurring balances that they haven't been able to pay. And so we really tried to get money into the hands of the students who, from what we know, need that to help stabilize their finances. So we have a process. We started that process this week. We identified over 4,000 students in those priority groups. We also established an application process. So if a student didn't end up in the priority group, but they've experienced something like job loss or housing insecurity, or they need funds, they can still apply even though they're not in a priority group. And we have a team reviewing those applications, and so they're still eligible for those funds. So we want to make sure as many students who need those funds get them as quickly as possible. Those disbursements for the students who've already said, yes, I want those funds and I have need, will start going out next week. Again, thank you. Thank you to the Board of Regents and to all of our faculty and staff for helping us recruit, retain, and support our students and shape the Eastern experience. Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Wasson?
I have a question. I was just curious, historically, what month does EKU see the most number of applications for fall semester?
Typically, the most applications come in fall. Typically in the recruitment cycle at this point, we've shifted. We've already shifted to start recruiting 2022, and we're doing yield things, but not trying to get students to apply. At this point in the recruitment cycle, we're typically focused on yielding the students who are already in the pipeline. I don't know exactly which month, but I can get you that information.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Wasson, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the CPE is really concerned about the current amount of FAFSAs that have been filled out by students. Many of those are often influenced by their teachers and counselors who are trying to operate. Are there things that we can do because there's some reason to believe that certain parts of the state are more disadvantaged on filling out those forms? Are there things that we as an institution could be doing to help Dr. Thompson and the state reach that goal? Because they're really concerned, I guess, about it, because some students are discussing foregoing college and even technical education because they're looking at jobs and thinking that they may not get as good of an educational experience, which I would disagree with. But are there things that we can do as an institution, or have we been doing?
Yes, there are things we can do, and we've been doing them. We've been limited in how much outreach we can do around FAFSA and financial aid. We always offer FAFSA sessions. This year, we're just having to do those virtually. We are working with the high schools and high school counselors to do that. So we're trying to support FAFSA filing. We're doing everything we can in our own communication process for students who are in our pipeline but haven't filled out a FAFSA. We're encouraging them to do so. Typically, we would have events in the high schools, but as you know, those high school events have been closed. But what we're planning on doing is some community events that include all aspects of the admission pipeline, and we have those in the planning now to do in some strategic areas, Eastern Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, the Louisville area are places we're targeting right now to do those community type events that will include financial aid.
Regent Marion, I might add to that. I had an extensive conversation with President Thompson yesterday about this issue. One of the stigmas out there is some of the financial literacy that goes along with the FAFSA, that somehow the FAFSA is getting tied to student debt and student indebtedness. And so, as our team, our financial aid team, our admissions team work with students understanding that the bulk of the funds that come to a student due to the FAFSA are typically grant funds that don't have to be paid back, and that there's a lot of opportunity being left on the table by not filling out the FAFSA, and then having a very competent and a very engaged financial literacy program at the institution to make sure students are only taking out what they need and that they're using it for the most priority things. And so we're working closely with CPE on that and trying to help.
Any other questions for Dr. Wasson? May have. All right, if there are no more questions for Dr. Wasson, then let's move to our next agenda item. Vice President Pointer, you are up with the financial update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to present a brief financial update this morning. This update of information is through January 31, 2021 compared to last year, and this is the same format you've seen before. Our revenue, our actual education and general revenue through January 31 is running at $191.3 million. Our expenses are at $138.5 million for a change in net position of about $52.7 million. With respect to auxiliaries, revenue is running at $18.5 million. Expenses are at $12.5 for a change in net position of $5.9 million. All in, both funds were at $58.7 million change in net position. When you glance down here at the prior year, you see that with respect to E&G, we're trailing by about $300,000, which is really not a bad place to be given what we're dealing with on campus. We are trailing by about $300,000, and you can see that with respect to auxiliaries, they're trailing by about $3.8 million. So all in overall, we're trailing last year by about $4.1 million. Change in net position for both E&G funds and auxiliary funds. Taking a deeper dive here into revenue through January for these specific revenue sources, tuition and class fees are at $131.8 million. Last year, $136.5. were down by about $4.6 million. If you break that out by fall, winter, and spring, year over year, fall was down about 2.4 million overall. Winter was up by 1 million. We did kudos to the provost office and the teams, Rusty and Melinda and Sarah and all those folks who worked to increase our winter programs. We were up by about 1 million there. Spring, year over year, is down by about 3.2 million. So that's what makes up the variance there of 4.6 million year over year. State appropriations, as I mentioned last time, are up a little bit. We've got a couple of new mandates and appropriations with respect to model and the aviation program. And then the government grants and contracts. This is also primarily due to the change with model. We used to have a contract with the county. We don't have that now. This will kind of resolve itself as we move through another year or so or whatever. Private gifts and grants is basically flat. Educational sales and services is down by about $200,000. That's some odd different sorts of revenue that are down as impacted by COVID. There's some athletic revenue that's down, some other sources of revenue. Other sources here that's down by about 1 million. That's being primarily driven by some of our commissions that are down, again, as a result of some of our partners that aren't experiencing the level of business we're accustomed to, and also some of those units that we've moved to auxiliaries. They would have shown some revenue here, but now they're over in the auxiliary fund, and we'll look at those in just a moment. Looking at expenses, you'll see, again, this is the same sort of story we saw last time I reported. Year over year, each instruction is down by about 1.8 million. The primary areas that we're down are the primary areas where our budget resides, and that's in the instruction, academic support, and libraries, and those areas, and that's to be expected. These reductions in expenses are about equally split between operations and maintenance and labor and personnel savings. So we're experiencing savings in all areas across the board. Student services as well is down slightly. Operations and maintenance of plant is down almost $1 million, but I always remind the cabinet as I share this information with them that there are always some timing events that we have to take into account, whether with respect to bill paying and whether it be utilities and things like that may or may not be synced up, but they will get caught up. So overall, expenses are down by about $5 million year over year. Now to glance at auxiliaries, and you'll remember from last time, we've added several new auxiliaries this year to the auxiliary program, and these reports comparing auxiliaries year over year will become more meaningful as we move along, and you'll see in a moment that we can't really compare everything just yet. But just to briefly take a look at these, even in spite of COVID, some of these are performing well, and I'm proud of the teams that are running these. The tennis center is up, the net position is up a little bit, as is the airport FBO. Campus Rec Center is up. You'll see in a moment it's not up quite as much as it was last year at this time, but again, I think it's good to note that even though they've probably got fewer other memberships out there in the community and in the campus or whatever due to COVID, some relief of debt service has helped them manage in a good way this year. Center for the Arts is down year over year. Again, you know we're dark in the Center for the Arts, but there are still some. We have one person over there who is still answering the phones. We've got partial people working there, partial labor distributions going there too. So there is still activity going on in the center, but again, there's not any really no activity there. Community education is slightly down, as is the Eastern Progress, both impacted by COVID, as is the facilitation center. Housing, positive change in net position by 5.4 million, a little bit less, a couple of million less, I think, than last year at this time. And you'll see that here in a moment when we compare. The OSHA Training Center is still up in spite of COVID. Parking operations is in a good, healthy position. And these funds will be used to reinvest in our parking lots, our roads, and our infrastructure on campus. I'm proud of the work that we're doing with parking as an auxiliary now. That's no longer a drain on any of our E&G areas. Printing services has been impacted by COVID. There's not a lot of printing going on, as is the University Club at Arlington. But however, I'll throw a caveat in here with the club. we did some pretty hefty refunds this fall due to COVID. We were hearing from a lot of members about their experience about inability to access all the amenities at the club. So we addressed that. But even in spite of that, I'm pleased with kind of where we're landing here with a modest reduction or decrease in net position. WKU Public Radio, again, keep in mind some timing events. Some of their foundation gifts, as they get processed and as they're moved over to the ledger, that will help improve their operations. And again, Whitehall has been impacted significantly by COVID. Not a lot of guests out there. And again, they're open five months out of the year. They're currently in a closed position right now. But again, they will have events out there as a one-off in a socially distanced, protected, safe manner if they can. Now, again, these comparisons will get more meaningful. These grayed out areas are those areas, the footnote is, and you'll see the footnote in a moment. I guess it didn't make it onto the sheet, but these weren't auxiliaries in a previous year. So again, this will get more meaningful next year as we can compare year over year. But this is a glance kind of where these units were landing last year. As I mentioned, Campus Rec was up last year as well. You see the position that the Center for the Arts was in as of January last year, and housing and parking operations was a little bit better last year too. But for those that we can compare side by side now, the airport FBO, you can see a significant improvement here year over year. The aviation program, they are flying and they are selling fuel out there, which is a good thing. Campus Rec, as I mentioned, it's having a good year, not quite as good as last year, but some factors are helping them this year, which is good. Center for the Arts, clearly you can see the difference year over year. Housing, down 2.5 million from the net position last year. Parking operations also down. When there's fewer people on campus, there's fewer parking registrations or automobile registrations that are available or sold. Printing, a significant impact on printing. So we're hoping that'll turn around as we return to more normalcy and have more people on campus in the fall. You can see the impact there at the University Club, about $30,000 change. And finally, Whitehall, again, as COVID has had an impact, and as we get them open and operating more normal, it will be an improvement. But again, this sheet this comparison, as I said, will get more meaningful next year as we have 2 years of data that we can compare. But I think
Barry, I think it's important to remind the board members, for those auxiliary employees who are not fully deployed in areas like Arlington or Whitehall, or the Center for the Arts, that we have redeployed those staff into critical and essential areas. Some of those have been critical in our contact tracing and what we've done in the COVID response. Others have been supporting the testing and the vaccination clinic. So some of these expenditures, which are still living in the auxiliaries, are going to support the overall institutional operations as well.
Yeah, that is correct. And we are sharing staff, and we've modified those labor distributions. That's the same sort of thing we're doing, like I mentioned, at the Center for the Arts, where there's still some labor being charged there, but we've reallocated a lot of that to other areas as well. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions for Treasurer Pointer? Regent Castro?
Yes. One of the things that I see is the University Club Arlington is down this year by 14.9 as opposed to 14.5 on the positive side. Are there some fixed costs that we are just tied to, like we can't get out to? Because as you mentioned, they are basically shut down. Why this going to the negative?
Well, the main reason why they're negative is on the revenue side, the refunds that we processed in September. Had we not processed those refunds, I think you would have seen a pretty good net position for the club. We are examining any fixed costs we have out there. They're being scrutinized right now as well. But the club, the golf has been open. We've managed in COVID, and my appreciation goes to David, Dr. McFadden and Brian Mackinnon to help us manage the governor's guidelines with respect to the the golf course, and the pool that we were finally able to open. Those are very important to our members. So that's the primary reason Regent Castro is the refund that we processed last fall that's impacted the club.
So I guess my next question or follow-up is how can we as Board of Regents help the university club? Do we need to invite our friends and go out there and play some golf, I guess? I think we need, yes, thank you for the answer, but I guess we need to be very cognizant as a Board of Regents that we can play a positive impact, make a positive impact on the university club, because we need to support it as well. So anything that we can do, please let us know. I think it's very important.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much. And yes, thank you.
Any other questions for Treasurer Pointer? Well, Barry, thank you for the presentation and for the way that you're able to show the university's position and for segregating each of the auxiliaries so that you provide increased transparency to the board and to our campus about the different areas that we're serving and how those areas are performing.
Thank you.
We now move to our strategic planning update. Dr. Jennifer Weiss is up. Dr. Weiss, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. I'm also joined by Dr. Bethany Miller this morning to talk about our strategic planning updates, and I'm going to move us to the slides. We are on track with our strategic planning process that we've previously presented, with a focus on valuing our strengths and collaboration for the future. As a reminder, our guiding tenets for the strategic planning process include a values-driven approach, which focuses first and foremost on integrity and diversity and inclusion. We're emphasizing a strengths-based evaluation, and we're seeking to make evidence-informed decisions along the way for this strategic plan. We're also emphasizing responsive and responsible leadership and management approaches, which include things like integrating chaotic leadership approaches and thinking into how we engage our management approaches.
In fall 2020, phase 1, the dialogue phase, was completed. During this phase, a strengths assessment was completed by hosting stakeholder listening sessions. We conducted at least 8 listening sessions comprising more than 250 EKU faculty, staff, and students. Additionally, a survey was administered to all university constituents that gathered feedback through a SOAR analysis and a reflection on our previous strategic plan and current EKU mission. More than 700 university constituents completed the survey. The results of the dialogue phase indicate the following. University constituents have a significant connection to and place importance in 3 of our current goals: student success, academic excellence, and financial stability. Additionally, the results indicate a commitment to key measures, including the student outcomes of graduation, retention, enrollment, and job placement, and the faculty and staff outcomes of retention and professional development and training. The impact of these results will allow the next strategic plan to have more focused and intentional goals and initiatives guiding our continuous improvement.
In addition to those results, we are seeing that our campus constituents, our community constituents, express a deep connection and dedication to a school of opportunity mission. Respondents are articulating this commitment to a regionally situated mission and the people who are part of that region, as well as serving the students who originate from our service region. We're also seeing strong responses in the areas of engaging the service region via service as well as education, and an emphasis on supporting first-generation college students. We're translating these data into concrete opportunities for organizational stewardship efforts, And this also confirms support for establishing strategic and mission-centered budget priorities according to our mission. So what are we going to do next? Well, we're in phase 2, the create phase of our strategic plan. In this phase, we're focusing on refining EKU's mission, values, vision, goals. We're going to begin writing goals and initiatives and strategies to share with our campus constituents. And we're also looking at how to articulate some concrete objectives at that unit level and corresponding metrics so that people can begin to see how the larger plan will translate into their everyday work. We're looking at additional reporting goals that we have across campus, such as this diversity reporting efforts, and integrating those into the strategic plan to reduce the number of reports that unit leaders submit, and assuring that those reports align with the multiple goals that we're serving at EKU. As we look to the fall, we're going to share the drafts with stakeholders. So we will have things on paper by the fall to share with stakeholders and gather feedback that will position us for the spring to hold workshops for developing the unit level annual report plans. And this will all culminate in what we hope will be an August 2022 formal strategic plan launch, and of course, celebration of our accomplishments past and accomplishments to come. We welcome any questions from the board about the strategic planning process.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Regent Marion?
Yeah, what would the timeline look like in terms of engaging individual board members, or maybe our counselor can engage with us on how individual board members may be able to provide kind of statewide citizen feedback in their respective roles, and then myself, President McConan, and Staff Regent Gump could provide commentary in that regard.
Thanks, Jason. In addition to sharing your feedback via the survey, we will have time in the fall for individuals to share with their constituent groups the developed plan, the plan that's created throughout this term, and generate feedback. So we'll continue to work with whoever would like us to share the presentation with your constituent groups, or gather more feedback once we have that plan on paper, so that we can present folks something that they can be very specific in their reaction to.
Any further questions for Dr. Miller and Dr. Weiss? There being no questions, I thank each of you for the work that you're doing. I know that the strategic plan can sometimes be tedious to put together. Sometimes it may feel like you're herding cats, but it is critically important. To the Regents, I want to remind you that while Dr. Miller and Dr. Weiss are leading the legwork in putting the plan together, the plan is the university's plan. It is our plan, and we will have to approve it. And I encourage each of you has something that you're more passionate about than others. We're all passionate about EKU and EKU's success, but there are individual things in the university that is probably more important to you than others, whether it be diversity and inclusion, whether it be the arts, whatever your passion is. Please utilize your opportunity to impact a strategic plan in a positive way. You are here to serve, and you're here to lead in the things that are important to you. So feel free to engage with Dr. Weiss, with Dr. Miller, as we move down this process to impact the plan and add value in things that you are experts in and things that you care about. With that, we move to the next item on our agenda, which is the legislative update. Ethan Witt, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm well. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to the members of the board this morning, President McFadden. Today is day 23 of the 30-day legislative session. It's also the final full week that the General Assembly will be in session. The remaining 6 days after this week will be sprinkled throughout the month between then and March 30th. So things are in full swing. And I don't have a formal presentation for you this morning because as sure as I had prepackaged that for your board packet, it would have been outdated within a number of hours with the speed that things are moving at currently. It's been an unprecedented session. Not having unfettered access to the Capitol complex is certainly a complicating factor. But President McFadden and I, along with Chair Diaz, have spent as much time there as we possibly can, doing our part to move forward the university's agenda. There have literally been hundreds of bills filed this session, so I'm just going to touch on a few that are important to EKU, and then I'll be happy to take any questions about those or other bills that may be on your mind. Of course, at the top of the list is House Bill 192, which is the state budget. Given the unprecedented situation we're in, it's a one-year budget for the coming fiscal year, and we remain in a holding pattern on that. The executive budget was produced in early January, and the General Assembly sent that to a conference committee in mid-January, and we continue waiting for that conference committee report from the House and the Senate to know exactly where things are going to end up with the coming one-year budget. As you know, the executive budget included a 2% increase to higher ed, 1% to each institution's base, 1% to the performance funding model, along with $50 million to a resurgence pool to deal with capital maintenance and deferred maintenance needs here on campus and at campuses across the state. And in our advocacy, we have impressed the need to do anything we can to increase funding to higher ed in Kentucky for the first time since 2008. And to also keep that money in for deferred maintenance needs, which are many here on campus, as you all know. So I hope that within the next week or so, we'll have a better idea of what that final conference committee budget is going to look like. And as we continue through the legislative process, I will just remind you, of course, we have divided government between the governor's office and the legislature with veto-proof majorities in both legislative chambers. So that could certainly play a factor as this comes down to the finish line. That brings me to House Bill 8, which is something that's been on our radar. I know something the president has talked to you all about throughout this legislative session. House Bill 8 deals with KERS employer contributions. And in essence, it seeks to change decades of precedent in terms of how participating agencies pay their employer contributions to KERS. Based on the most current version, this bill would move from a percentage of payroll to assign each agency a percentage of the KERS total unfunded liability. It would then create a 30-year amortization period to pay off that liability to the system. House Bill 8 passed the House by an 88-0 margin. It passed the Senate A&R committee yesterday with several substantive changes, and it's in the orders of the day to be heard on the Senate floor this afternoon. I can tell you that EKU has advocated fiercely for changes to this legislation. We've highlighted areas for improvement, and we were successful in getting some of those included in the Senate version that came out of committee yesterday. One of those pieces, and the president may want to expand on this in just a moment, but one of those pieces we've been working on is ensuring the accuracy of liability. Since for the first time, they're going to seek to assign liability to an individual agency, we want to be sure that EKU owes what the retirement system says we owe. We spent a year and a half trying to get that data in order to validate it. We received that data about a month ago. And Barry Pointer and Brad Compton have a team of people who are working hard every day to go through these thousands of data entries to ensure its validity. And I can tell you, they've already identified about 16 million in liability assigned to EKU that we don't think we owe. And as this continues, we will make the case about where that liability should rest and be sure that our institution's interests are represented there. Mr. President, would you like to add anything on that note?
Yeah, I think to that end, it has been a difficult session to try to influence policy on something that's very important to our institution and to really all of the quasi-governmental agencies across Kentucky, from health departments to county attorneys to rape crisis centers. And so we are committed to being a part of that solution. We appreciate that the policymakers have listened along the way, and this bill has evolved since it left the House into something that I think is a very responsible piece of policy. We do think that getting the data right is critical, and so we are fortunate that House Bill 8 is going to is at least express an intention that a full funding of this shift from what was a percentage of payroll to this now level dollar approach would be subsidized by the General Assembly in the upcoming fiscal year. In out fiscal years, there would be some dollars there to kind of move through a tiered approach where there's a shared sacrifice between the agencies or the institution and the General Assembly, which would put a floor of 50% for the subsidy. And so still a lot to learn, and understanding that you can't bind a future General Assembly to an appropriation. Mr. Witt and I will spend quite a bit of time as we spend our time together doing this work, going to Frankfurt and advocating for continued support of that KERS contribution. So.
Yeah, in short, if this bill moves forward, we'll spend the next 15 budget sessions advocating for that subsidy to remain to cover the increase that EKU will face from House Bill 8. So we'll have our work cut out for us for a long time, but we'll be sure and continue doing everything we can to make sure EKU's interests are represented.
Well, let me just say, Ethan, this is Laura, just to say, it's clear that the sponsor knew far more about EKU than any other group in that bill. You guys are simply amazing. I mean, EKU was best understood because you were able to describe it and explain it in a way that they understood. So I just want to say that as a member of this board and the entire Board of Regents are so proud of your work and of the president's. It clearly came through that they understood EKU. So thank you for the work that you do and are doing.
Well, Regent Babbage, we've spent a lot of time with the bill sponsor and other legislators. And ultimately, the General Assembly is why we were able to get our data. They instructed KRS to turn that data over, and now Brad's team is hard at work to validate that data. A few other bills I want to touch on. The performance funding bill continues to move through the process. That's Senate Bill 135. This legislation, carried by Senator David Givens, is the consensus approach that the presidents reached in their working group last fall for the future of the performance funding model, where a base floor will be set for each institution based on current appropriation, and then new funds going forward will be subjected to the performance model. This bill passed out of the Senate with a unanimous vote. It passed out of the House Education Committee yesterday. And I do expect that to reach the governor's desk before the General Assembly adjourns for the session. House Bill 145 is something Dana Fole and I have spent quite a bit of time on recently. It's a piece of legislation that deals with student discipline at public universities. Specifically, it seeks to change how disciplinary hearings related to several matters are adjudicated. It, as it currently is written, would have a substantial change in some of our practices and procedures. And we'll actually be leaving this meeting early today to have some more legislative meetings because we want to make sure that the university's position is well represented on that bill, as it would certainly impact the council's office as well as our student affairs office in terms of how these hearings are adjudicated going forward. And the last bill I'll touch on is House Bill 158. This is the Central Kentucky Regional Airport bill. I want to thank Representative Frazier and Senator Carpenter for their work on this. As you all know, because of the General Assembly's support last session, EKU is positioned to construct a state-of-the-art flight training center at the airport. And given that reality, we thought it was important that the university be on equal footing with the other agencies that have an ownership stake in that facility. So House Bill 8 is a simple House Bill 158 is a simple statutory change that will allow EKU to have 2 seats on the Central Kentucky Regional Airport Board, which is equal to the representation that the City of Richmond, the City of Berea, and Madison County currently have. We're very excited about that. We're very excited about the future of that program, the future of the airport, and we look forward to being a formal partner in that work with the 3 local governments. That legislation has passed the House unanimous. It passed out of Senate Transportation yesterday morning, and I'm hoping within the next day or 2 it will pass the full Senate and head to the governor for his signature. With that, I'll stop. I'm happy to take any questions on any of those items or others that may be on your mind.
Any questions for Ethan Witt? There being no questions, Regent Babbage, I want to thank you for the commentary. You are absolutely spot on. EKU is very well represented in Frankfurt. Our team is knowledgeable on the issues, and they're extraordinarily proficient in educating members of the General Assembly on the things that are important to higher education and how their legislation impacts the universities on the sort of the front lines. So Ethan, thank you. Dr. McFadden, thank you for all the good work that you all are doing in Frankfurt. With respect to House Bill 158, Provost Pogachnik, I want to remind you about 2 years ago, I think it was, I remember us being in the board meeting in I think it was at Walnut Hall, and we talked about aviation and our desire to become a premier, top 3 flight program in the country. And you were leading that initiative at the time. And as I look at House Bill 158 and I look at where we have moved to with respect to our aviation program, I can't help but to think of that board meeting as sort of the springboard to leading to where we are today. So I just want to take a moment and recognize the work that has been done institutionally, what you have done to lead that on the academic side to help the growth of that program, the work that Ethan and David, Dr. McFadden have done in obtaining the support from the General Assembly to grow the program. So I didn't want the moment to pass and not have an opportunity to thank you, Provost Pogachnik, for the leadership in aviation.
I appreciate that, Chair Diaz, but I would have to say that the credit really goes to the folks in the program, Tim Ross in particular, and Dennis Sinnett for leading that program. We have encountered some challenges, obviously, through the years, but it's nice to see that program really achieve its potential and be a hallmark program for EKU. And so there's so many people who have done so much work to support that program, members of the board included, President McFadden, Ethan. It's been a real team effort, and I appreciate the recognition, but there's a lot of folks who have done far more on this than I am, and I'm just really grateful for the team approach that we've had here. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your leadership, sir. That takes us to the hour mark of our board meeting. I think this may be a good moment to take a quick 5-minute break, allow us to perhaps dump coffee and refill coffee, and then come back together. I've got 10:04. How about we reconvene at 10:10? Madam Counselor, do I need a motion to go into recess?
No, I don't think so, sir.
All right, well then I'll inform the meeting facilitator that we are going to recess until 10:10. I'm going to turn off my camera now and come back at 10:10. Enjoy your break, folks. apologies. I went out of the room that I'm in, and it's a password protected room. I locked myself out. In any case, welcome back. We're now moving to the report section of the agenda. We do have written reports from Dr. Choco and Dr. Scott. Dr. Choco is the Faculty Senate Chair, and Caitlin Scott is the Chair of Staff Council. As I was reading through those reports, it occurred to me that I have not spoken to either of them in person in probably a year. And in some strange way, I missed that and look forward to connecting with both of them as soon as it is safe for us to do so. With respect to Faculty Senate, the notes included some conversation about our Booksmart scholarship. And I know that in a recent faculty leadership symposium, there's questions about Booksmart and how that relates to the open source textbook that we have previously worked on together as a board. And I do want to state publicly that it's my view that the one activity supports the other. The way the Booksmart scholarship works is that we are, the price point for that varies based on our utilization year over year. To the extent that we're able to create more open source books, that reduces our private pay book utilization year over year, which in effect lowers the price point of Booksmart that the university absorbs. So it's not a zero sum, do one or the other. I think the intention is to do both so that as we increase the open source books that classes and professors are using, it decreases the cost of the Booksmart. So both of those tie in together. And I'm sorry if that wasn't easily communicated to people who really care about the open source books. Obviously, that's something that this board has looked at. It's important to us. We've invested in it through our innovation fund, and it's something that we want to keep doing. So I wanted to say that so that it's on the record. Staff council and the information that they provided, they've noted the difficulty and the psychological impact of not being in person, and how hard it is for staff to work remotely and not be on campus and have the human element, the human component to being part of a workforce, being part of a team. And to that, all I can say is hang in there. Everybody is working hard to get us back to where we can be together on campus as quickly and as safely as possible. Next on the agenda is EUL Mikkonen. EUL, the floor is yours for an update from Student Government Association. How are you doing today, EUL?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am doing quite all right. The sun is shining again, so much better, much better. Good morning, everyone. I took a lesson from last time and decided to skip the video, so there won't be any technical difficulties, hopefully. But hello, my name is EUL Mikkonen, and I have the privilege and honor of representing my peers as the 65th student body president of Eastern Kentucky University. And we're in the middle of the semester, and so most of our metrics and all of our numbers are still churning. However, I do have a great deal of update for the board. I just wanted to start by what I started the spring semester with, which was I kept asking the entire association, what is our why, and defining our purpose and defining our vision and our mission. And I always ask myself, where do world leaders come from? Those people that change the world, those people that shift cultures, those global impactors. Like, are they made? And if they're made, what are they made out of? I don't know if there's an exact formula, but I know for a fact that it doesn't switch once they turn 25 or 30 or 45, because Malala was only 15. And coming from Black History Month in February and into Women's History Month in March, I wanted to highlight a couple of our members that I have the great privilege of working with. the first member, Tamara Crutcher, chair of the Student Rights and Safety Committee and the Student Senate, told me last year that she was the first person in her family to ever be published in a newspaper. And the pride that she had, as she told me that, I knew that that would carry on to everything else that she did. And Star Robertson, who's our second member that I'm highlighting, who is my chief of staff, just joined student government this August, but has proven herself to be one of the most helpful people in our administration, and especially her passion for making EKU better, and her dissatisfaction was just settling with the average is just very inspiring. And lastly, Brittany Bowens, who took on the role of Director of Diversity and changed it from a role into an office, which now has a fund that was delegated from the Student Senate, to where she has a committee that works with different groups on campus to facilitate initiatives by listening to students. So a couple of focal points that we're focusing on towards the end of this semester is alumni relations and engagement. We recognize that at the end of the day, we are part of a university. And so we come here, we learn, get skills, and then we leave to the workforce. And so we want to make sure that our members have great connections and great network with their predecessors, those who came before them 20, 30, 40 years before them. And hopefully I will be reached out to 30, 40 years down the line by someone that is in student government that said, I was able to find your contact information through our network. And student investment is also something that we're looking at. If we do not invest in our youth right now, we're failing tomorrow's test. And so without a very targeted investment into higher education, it will be very challenging to sail a chaotic sea. And last but not least, student representation and student participation. We have our elections coming up on the 23rd of March, and we are working on a campaign of making sure that students know about the election, students are engaged in the election, students are voting and running in the election, because a well-informed student body is a productive student body, and a productive student body is really what student government is, or is what makes student government something that can be useful to our campus community. And with that, I'll just close with the essence of our importance to the community, to our campus community. We're not important just by the virtue of our position and by the virtue of the board recognizing us as a official student representative body. I believe that we're very important because students can find a place to exercise their inspiration and turn that into action, because we have assembled together a government that works to represent the student body, promote self-governance, participation in policy-making and decision-making processes of the university community, and most importantly, to foster a well-informed citizen. And so once they leave EKU, if they have been an engaged and informed student, chances are they'll probably be a very well-engaged citizen. And with that, I will take any questions or thoughts that the board might have.
Any questions for the student body president?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. The idea that the student president had, that 30 years from now, he will be maybe called by a student. As you know, I'm also an alumni of the University of Houston, and every year I get a call from some student. The last call, they just wanted to make sure I was okay because of the snow and make sure that I'm engaged. And I think that's so important. And you just hit it. I think we allow our alumni to stay idle. And I think the years that I spent at EKU, only two, were fantastic. And I should be able or willing to give back to the institution that gave me so much. And so I think that alumni engagement through our student body is critical. And I appreciate that initiative. I encourage that initiative because I see it from the other side, and I think it's working for the University of Houston. I would love to see it working for EKU and making our institution really a cohesive community that goes beyond the borders of Madison County. And I think we have the ability to do so. Thank you, Ian. I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you, Regent Castro. And VP Gardner has also been extremely helpful in helping us in regards to reaching out to our SGA alumni as well. And so I also wanted to mention that and give that credit where it's due.
Any other questions for EUL? EUL, before I move on to the president's report, I want to say two things. First, I'm grateful to the pride that you've put into the workspace that the Student Government Association has in the Powell building. As everybody knows, we did a complete refresh and modernization of the Powell building and the student government workspace. And when you arrived, you pretty much had a whiteboard to deal with. And having visited that space a couple times now and seen the progress that you've made, you have provided something for the presidents that come behind you to have inspired workspaces that you can do some productive work in. So thank you for that, and thank you for leading and generating that. The second thing is probably on a more personal note. I think everyone on the board knows that I'm an immigrant and I came to this country at a very young age. And when I look at you, EUL, I'm just grateful that you raised your hand to lead on our campus, that you ran for student body government, and that you had the ability to win, and that our students voted for you, and that you have led with distinction. And in the work that you do, you remind all of us why America is what it is and why this country is the land of opportunity and why EKU is a school of opportunity. So you have tremendous potential in your life. I know you're going to graduate here at the end of the semester. I appreciate how you have used the platform of the student body president, how you've used your voice, and I want to encourage you to do that throughout your career.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the president's report. Dr. McFadden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is good to be with everyone. And as Regent Babbage referenced, I hope that as we gather together for our next meeting of the year, we can do so in a face-to-face, but healthy and safe environment. So it is good to see everyone. As we gather here for the first board meeting of this new year, I truly feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We are beginning to see a return to what will constitute normalcy in a post-pandemic world. And as you heard Dr. Wasson reference, it's exciting. We are eager and working diligently every day to ensure that there is an exceptional Eastern experience that will greet our students in the days ahead. Every area of campus is focused and involved in this work, and we have an unwavering commitment to deliver on that promise. But before I go forward, and obviously as we think about Regent Collins, as we think about others throughout Kentucky, but specifically, I would ask everyone to join with me in remembering and supporting the thousands upon thousands of people in our service region who are suffering from the ice storm to the flooding. We're seeing some once in a lifetime type of things happen that are catastrophic to those communities. If you've seen the photos and videos, you understand what's going on with our neighbors and our friends. And what I would ask is that we just remember those folks. Let's reach out to those communities and know that here on campus, we are working to bring together some plans in a way to help those communities in the best way that we can. And it has truly been a challenging few weeks for the state, and particularly for Southeastern and Eastern Kentucky. Navigating this evolving and very impactful public policy environment, remaining focused on our students and putting the well-being of our students, faculty, and staff foremost during the COVID-19 pandemic has been challenging. It has challenged us to innovate and to lead in new and thoughtful ways. I think back to the OVC conference tournament, which is a week ago this week. It's the last memory that I have of what was normal. I know we are all longing for a return to something that feels like that normalcy, and the athletic director and myself and several others will be leaving today to go to the OVC tournament in Evansville to watch our number 3 ranked Colonels compete in the OVC tournament for the last time. As you are well aware, we will be leaving the OVC and joining the ASUN conference July 1st. And it seems like it's been a long year. But we have learned from these experiences, and we are better on the other side of it. And we are excited about what's to come. While the challenges have been great, they've also brought focus to the university about what our priorities are, about where we need to be growing and learning as we go forward together. This spring, we do plan to have an in-person commencement ceremony, a return to normal. It will be the first one since I became president. The commencement is one of the events, it's one that I look the most forward to. And I know as Regents, I've heard from so many of you that you're eager to return to being there with the students and their families to celebrate their success. This is going to be an extraordinary opportunity. There'll be more details about that coming out in the next several weeks. I'm excited for May to get here and looking forward to celebrating with our students, hopefully with very favorable weather at Roy Kidd Stadium. So we are excited about that. In the fall of 2021, we do plan to create a new and exceptional EKU experience for our students and our entire campus community. We will continue to prioritize the health and well-being of our community, but we also intend to expand those opportunities to provide the best EKU experience possible. I'm excited about that, and as Dr. Wasson, as Dr. Moore, Athletic Director Roan, and that team works together to bring forward an exceptional experience. I am excited to invite you back this fall to be a part of that as Regents, to see the things that we're doing to make a transformative student experience. We have created an entirely new student-focused recruitment and retention strategy called the EKU Advantage. One of the most important components of the EKU Advantage is the BookSmart program, which we've talked a lot about, and we're very grateful for this board of your support. I tell everyone here and everyone tuning in, the books are free. They're free for our undergraduate students starting this fall 2021 academic year. Not only is this program a critical component of recruiting and retaining our students, but it's also a part of an overall strategy of putting a focus on student success, access, and affordability. It's important that we all be ambassadors for the BookSmart program, for all of the EKU Advantage programs, and that recruiting, retaining, and graduating students is absolutely all of our responsibility. This is a critical time in the history of our university, and I want you to know that we are all solutions focused, and we're all going to be a part of that solution. Enrollment is our lifeblood. Our state funding allocation is down now to about a third, if not less, of our overall revenue stream. And enrollment comprises the rest of that. We must do everything in our power to recruit and retain students to this institution, to give them a transformational experience and make sure they go out and tell others, EKU is the best university anywhere if you want to have an exceptional transformational experience. Anyone who has the ability and the opportunity to be a colonel should be touched by this university in some way. I'm proud of the work that we're doing. I'm proud of the team that we've got who are working on it. And I want you to know it is going to be a long spring and a long summer for our enrollment management teams, for our academic departments, because we are not going to let up. We're going to push every day to make sure up to the add drop period of the fall 21 semester that we are trying to provide opportunity to anyone and everyone who wants to be a part of this institution. Touch really quickly on the CARES funding. We did once again receive a second round of federal stimulus funds, of which, as Dr. Wasson indicated, $5.2 million will be distributed directly to the students. I was able to share some information with the Regents, but for an in-depth information about the distribution of those funds, please go to our financial aid website, and you can see there that there's a link you can click on about CARES funds distributions. This round of funding allocation will be distributed in a similar manner to the first round, and students have been identified, and those funds will start to be distributed as early as this week to those students. I want you to know that as we think about the flooding and so many things that we've seen in our communities, that this pandemic continues to take a huge impact on our students and their families. When we think about job losses, food insecurity, housing assistance, utility assistance, this is a lifeline to those students. But we have also done immense work with our SAFE program here on campus, and our alumni, our friends, our students, our faculty, our staff, all of those who have stepped in to the gap to support those who need the most basic of things. EKU has been able to deliver, and I'm very proud of our EKU family for that. The remaining balance of those funds will be allocated to the university in this round, and we will use that for revenue relief. As Vice President Pointer pointed out, we have seen fairly impactful revenue declines, and we will be able to use these stimulus funds to balance and look forward to being able to invest in opportunity. You may have already seen, but to share with everyone, we have had some realignments within our college, with our colleges that is coming with Dr. Ziegler's move to become the provost. She has been working in conjunction with Dr. Pagashnik and myself, the rest of the deans, and really the impacted areas of stakeholders across campus. As our colleges go through this strategic realignment, we will see that we will be creating a College of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math that will be led by Dr. Otiano. We are letting the College of Business stand alone, and we will be doing a search which is underway now for the College of Business. I would like to thank Dr. Tom Erickson for his assistance in helping create the new STEM college and his willingness to step up and help us in the transition to the College of Business being a standalone and the creation of our engineering program as we are moving forward together. We'll also move forward with a national search to identify a permanent dean for the College of Justice, Safety, and Military Science. And we are excited about launching that search and having it run through the summer and likely into the fall as we're looking for the next leader for that college. From a fundraising, development, alumni engagement standpoint, Vice President Bettina Gardner reports that we have a $45.5 million campaign total toward our $50 million. The endowment has now reached and just tipped over the $80 million mark, and the endowment total is up about 16% from fiscal year-end close of $69 million. So that is some great work that's going on by our foundation board, those trustees, as I said, Treasurer Pointer, who also serves as the treasurer for the foundation, and of course, Bettina Gardner, who is the executive director of the foundation. Great work is going on in our development areas and in our alumni engagement areas. Also, I would remind everyone here, if you don't know, April 14th is our giving day this year, the day before tax day, Regent Long. And the theme this year is one day, one goal, one Eastern. And we hear a lot about that concept. I talk a lot about one Eastern. I would hope that all those here would be a part of that Giving Day challenge. I know that my president's cabinet has got some big ideas we're going to roll out about things that we want to do to impact the campus. We would encourage all of those here to be a part of that and to be a part of the great things that are coming for this institution in the years ahead. Mr. Chair, I will stop there. There's a lot going on, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions for the president?
I have Thank you, Chair. And thank you, President McFadden. I was curious, as we look forward to vaccine rollout and in-person spring commencement, I was wondering if we know anything as far as when the EKU Center for the Arts might resume having events.
So, Regent Gump, we do have this what we call the Exceptional Eastern Experience, our E3 team, led by three of my cabinet members and Dr. Watson, Dr. Moore, and Vice President Roan. That kind of folds into kind of a holistic approach. So right now, I think that fall of 21 is really, we're going to roll out a calendar of signature events, signature experiences that will include the Center for the Arts. It will include things that are going to be unique to the students. They're going to be unique to the community, and we will start to move aggressively in that direction. Now, understanding within our campus community walls, we fully expect to be fully vaccinated and be able to return and be able to function in that way. As we think about those tickets that go on sale and some of the kind of revenue supported activities at the center, the marketplace out there for those things is still a bit unknown. As we look across the nation, whether we look at civic centers or performing arts venues, Broadway is still shut down. So there's a lot of programmatic things that are still, will be a bit downstream from that. But I am excited about the student programming that we will be able to utilize in the space, some of the community programming, and it is fully our intention to utilize that phenomenal facility to make the Eastern experience exceptional. So be on the lookout for a calendar of events there at the center, at the new Powell Plaza, at the Ravine, at Whitehall, at Arlington, at Braddock Auditorium. Be on the lookout for a lot of exciting things coming forward. And thank you. You kind of touched on vaccines. One thing I didn't touch on here, I did have a conversation just this morning with Greg Gerard at Baptist Health Richmond, who is a dear friend, a huge EKU supporter. Having this vaccine clinic on our campus in collaboration with Baptist Health Richmond is a major step forward for us in our community and having greater control over those vaccinations. We had a conversation just this morning, and we are anticipating the ability to announce very soon some targeted dates over the next 2 to 3 weeks, where we are very hopeful to be able to have vaccinated 100% of our EKU community who want to be vaccinated. And that's not students, that's faculty, staff, employees by the end of this month. And so that is a target that we've put on the wall. I know that once we get on the other side of those vaccinations, it is going to make a lot of things easier as we plan for the summer and for the spring.
Mr. Chair.
Regent Marion.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President, for the report. One of the issues raised by some of my constituents regards efficiencies on the campus in terms of time utilization by our folks. And I was aware of, the work that the board, along with you, Dr. McFadden, Dr. Williamson, Dr. Bogosnik, in terms of trying to lead some efficiency endeavors. Some folks feel like their time is sometimes not always spent focusing on the business of the business. And I was just curious, as we move as we start looking about also rolling out some of our events and getting back to normal as best as normal can become, will there be opportunities for carrying on some of those efforts in terms of figuring out better ways of using our time more effectively as faculty and staff on the campus? We may have learned some things through the pandemic on ways that we can continue to keep our costs low so that we can return the greatest amount of bang for our buck back to our people as well as to our students with reduced cost.
Yes, sir, Regent Marion. We kind of wrapped up our red tape reduction work last year. I actually have a report in my inbox that I've got to review later this week. Our internal auditor has went through those to kind of verify, what are the things that we can do that are within our purview to do? What are the things that are federally and state and locally required? And so we're going to look at every one of those efficiencies. I think that, efficiencies, innovations, opportunities are things we've talked a lot about. So on the other side of COVID, we are going to learn that we can do things in ways that we didn't do them before. There are going to be new efficiencies. There's also going to be some essential services that we know we absolutely have to have in a very traditional face-to-face way. And so it's a balanced approach. But yes, we will absolutely be looking for every opportunity we can. And I want to commend, Barry Pointer, Brad Compton, folks over there. Our move toward a fully virtual and integrated purchasing program in Jagger, that was a big investment. As we kind of work through that, there's a lot of opportunities there for us to create greater efficiencies. As we adopt the ability to do digital signatures and try to have digital contracts and try to create new ways to move things through the institution that adhere to policy, that adhere to the state and federal guidelines, but also kind of accelerate the time to delivery on those things. We are committed to all those things. So if there are things that come out of the working groups that you have that we're not addressing, whether it be the Faculty Senate or working groups that you have. Same to Regent Gump. Please bring those forward. Let's work on those with our cabinet, and let's make sure that we're addressing those things where we can.
I think it was the maroon tape reduction program, by the way. So
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Any further questions for Dr. McFadden, President McFadden? Well, Mr. President, thank you for all the hard work that you've been doing to keeping the university moving forward. As I turn to my remarks, I first want to take the opportunity to thank the Regents for allowing me the privilege to serve as chair, and for the work that each of you do to make our university better. There aren't very many more things that are more meaningful than impacting the university as we have the opportunity to do, and I'm so grateful that we get to do that. As we meet today, we're practically 1 year from the point where we had to adjust our operations in March of 2020. And I am and remain inspired by our university's ability to adapt, to respond, and to endure. What we have witnessed in this last year has been amazing. The EKU community is resilient. Any review of this past year will show that our faculty, our staff, and our administrators have provided quality educational opportunities, even in the face of unthinkable circumstances. EKU continues to prove that we have the experts with the know-how and the will to succeed no matter what we face. And that is absolutely inspiring. As we move forward, it is important that we continue with the same resolve that we have had over the last year. Just as we led in coping with COVID, we have to continue to lead and create a new normal that is better than any prior normal. That's not a small task, but Mr. President, I know that you, the cabinet, the staff, the students will achieve that outcome. I know it because colonels expect to win. As we move further into the spring semester and look to the summer and the fall, you have already heard today from various presenters that all indications point to normal operations. For students, this means an expanded academic and class offering, increased on-campus activities, including our ability to celebrate events, holidays, and traditions that bind us together. Employees will be back on campus for the work that they enjoy, and they'll be able to reestablish face-to-face meetings and be part of groups that keep us informed and motivated to help students and to help each other get better. A healthy return to campus is another common goal that unites the Colonel community. I don't think that I'm alone in saying that personal connection with my fellow Colonels on EKU's campus in Richmond is sorely missed, and I long for it and look forward to doing that here in the very near future. One of the more noticeable disruptions of the pandemic was the cancellation of graduation ceremonies. Based on the information that we've heard today and that's available to us, we expect that EKU will provide an in-person graduation ceremony for the seniors this spring. That is outstanding news. A graduation ceremony is a rite of passage that everyone on this board has experienced. And it's the right thing to do for our students. So I commend the president and the administration for making that a reality. Our students have worked hard, they've endured much. They deserve the same experience and recognition that each of us on the board received when we completed our degree. President McFadden, I know that you and the team will continue to work with the governor's office and with healthcare professionals to ensure that we proceed in a manner that is consistent with the required safety protocols. The work to reinitiate the in-person graduation in May, I see that as a part of a broader initiative to reimagine and enhance the Eastern experience. President McFadden, I heard you refer to it as E3, the exceptional Eastern experience, and it certainly is that. I know that our students are zoomed out. I think many of us are zoomed out and tired of Zoom meetings. And it's clear that students are hungrier than ever for a regular residential college experience. And it's necessary, right, and appropriate that as a university, we focus on that experience. So from Dr. Wasson to the president, everyone that's talked about the Eastern experience, to you, I say right on and good work. As we move on to the fall, we've got a keen understanding of what our students have missed. We know what we've missed over the last year. And we want to ensure that, and should ensure that the new normal that everybody keeps talking about, we want the new normal to be better than the pre-COVID normal. As we talk about this Eastern experience for the fall, incoming freshmen should expect to participate in the first year experience. Sororities and fraternities will have the option of resuming their normal activities, including Rush Week. Our athletics department will schedule more quality competitions for students to enjoy in Richmond. The Center for the Arts will reopen with an enhanced focus towards making a significant impact on the student experience. And our newly established Institute for Creative and Collaborative Arts will have opportunities to shape this exceptional Eastern experience by driving student-centric artistic productions throughout our campus, including the Center for the Arts. Put simply, 2021 will be an exciting time to be an EKU student. I want to personally thank all of the faculty and the staff that are working to highlight and perpetuate EKU's distinct characteristics. All of that to create an academic and student life environment and making the Eastern experience distinguishable from all other regional comprehensives. We want EKU, the academic, and the student life experience to be different and better than everywhere else. Thank you all. And I suppose if anyone has any questions for me, I'd be happy to take those. If there are no questions, we can move to the action items on the agenda. There being no questions, I do want to remind the board members that as we move to the action items, under Kentucky state law, your camera has to be on when you vote for an action item. I think I can see that everybody's camera is on, but I want to remind you of that for the minutes and for the record. First on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the fall meeting, December 10th, 2020.
Mr. Chair. Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes, but with one typographical edit. In the individuals who are present, the title for Ryan Wilson has Mr., and I would say that should be changed to Dr. Ryan Wilson.
Thank you for that comment, Regent Gump. I think Dr. Wilson has earned that degree and should be noted accordingly. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes with said change?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries and the minutes are approved with the appropriate recognition for Dr. Ryan Wilson. Next on the agenda are personnel actions. President McFadden will report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. If the board members will please reference starting on page 29 in the board book, you will see all of the personnel actions presented to you. I would ask that the board approve those personnel actions as presented, and I will take any questions if there are any.
So
Any questions for the president? I got a motion from Regent Babbage. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I've got a second from Regent Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is a recommendation of sabbatical program participants. Dr. Jerry Pogachnik, the provost, will report.
Thank you, Chair Diaz, President McFadden, and members of the board. I'm pleased to present faculty candidates recommended for sabbatical leave during the 21-22 academic year. The recommendations, along with a brief summary of their proposed work, appears on pages 34 and 35 of your board book. I submit these candidates to you for your approval.
Before I call for a motion, I do want to thank you, Provost, for including a brief summary of the activity. I think in years past, we received a listing of the recommendation, but not really a description of what the faculty members were engaging in. And it is truly inspiring to see. And I think it's worth noting that everyone that is asking for sabbatical consideration is doing something that is pretty innovative and pretty interesting. And we wouldn't have known it otherwise. And there was one summary that caught my attention. We have a faculty member that has 2 books, will take sabbatical to write a 3rd book. And I think it was the 2nd book that faculty member wrote has been picked up as a movie, and the movie was featured at the Sundance Film Festival, which is pretty cool. I know Dr. Judy Jenkins is doing some pretty cool research on how to capture solar power and use it for battery and improve battery technology so that the solar power that's captured lasts longer. So this is pretty cool stuff to be informed on, and I'm very encouraged by the good work that our faculty are doing, and I'm very pleased with the quality of the summaries and just very energized. So with that, if you haven't had a chance to look at those summaries, please do so. It's all very, very cool work.
Chairman Diaz, I want to reiterate exactly what you just said. I would have said almost verbatim what you just said. I was so grateful to read about our faculty, so proud of them, so proud of our university that we employ such phenomenal people. And I think that the practice that has begun right here, that should just continue right on, where we learn more about where these sabbaticals are taking people. So thank you. And I would also like to move that we approve these sabbaticals.
Thank you, Regent Babbage. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Castro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I, I'm pleased to have provided the summaries along with the works of the deans. And we are doing some amazing work, and just having those folks being listed as names doesn't do them justice. And so I think this is a good step forward, and I hope that'll continue.
Thank you, sir. I think you are still on the agenda. You're next up for approval of nominees for faculty emeritus status.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm also pleased to present faculty who have been recommended for emeritus status. These faculty have made significant contributions to teaching, scholarship, and service during their distinguished careers here at EKU. The names of each candidate, along with a brief description of their contributions, are listed on pages 37 through 39 of the board book, and I submit these candidates to you for your approval.
Thank you.
Moved. Again, I want to say very impressive work, and I would second every one of them. So I want to move approval, please.
Thank you, Regent Babbage. Is there a second?
Second.
I would second. Okay.
All right, Regent Collins, you spoke up first. Is that a second?
That was a second. And also, if I may, just for a moment, I think I'm probably the only member of the board who knew Dr. Glasser, Dr. Joanne Glasser. And I'm just so excited that she is on this list. And Paul was on the EKU Foundation when she was president, so I got to know her personally. She was a breath of fresh air. She started our first comprehensive capital campaign in Eastern's history. She was very forward thinking, and we got the Student Services Building, which is the Whitlock Building, new Business and Technology Center. Again, this is an overdue honor, and I'm so pleased that she is on this list. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Collins. I will echo your sentiment in a different way. I didn't know Dr. Glasser in the way that you did, but I was a student when she came to EKU as a president. The period of time that I was a student, the president went from Dr. Funderburg to a president that was here for about 18 months and then went somewhere else. And he was here so short, I can't remember his name right now. Yeah. And then it was Dr. Glasser. And I just remember a transition to where you didn't really know who the president was. You never saw the president on campus. And then Dr. Glasser came in and you saw her everywhere. And it was so refreshing from the student's perspective that you just felt like you had a personal connection with the president. and that she created an environment where our campus felt more and more like home. And I know I'm not the only student that felt that way about her and her time. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that this board is willing to consider that. With all that said, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Next on the agenda is a report from the Council of Academic Affairs. Dr. Weiss, welcome back.
Thank you. I have two informational items to share with the board from the Council for Academic Affairs. The first is that the Dean's Council as well as CAA have reviewed and approved the addition of an online modality for our Masters of Business Administration. And our second item, which several people have referenced today, including Dr. Wasson when she was talking about some exciting opportunities to engage our students, is the merger between the Department of Art and Design, the Department of Communication, and the School of Music to form the Institute for Creative and Collaborative Arts. These items do not require board approval, so they're presented to you as informational, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Weiss? All right, there being none, let's move to policy updates from Counselor Norberg.
Good morning, Regents. I have 4 policies that require your approval today, and I present those to you as a slate. The first is policy 3.1.1 fundraising. The second is policy 5.1.2 student organizations. The third is policy 8.2.2 employee leave, and the fourth is policy 8.3.3 employee conduct.
Madam Counselor, you have reviewed the policy changes and you find that these are generally immaterial and corrective in nature?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
With that, is there a motion for approval?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to consider these policies individually for purposes of voting.
Sure, we can do that. Is there a motion to approve policy 3.1.1 fundraising?
Mr. Chair, if I could make a motion to amend, or excuse me, I do not want to amend that. Apologies.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve policy 3.1.1 fundraising?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Castro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve policy 5.1.2 student organizations?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Regent Ewell. Is there a second?
Second.
I've got Regent Long for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there a motion to approve policy 8.2.2 involving employee leave?
Mr. Chair, I would like to recommend an amendment to the employee leave policy. And my recommended change would be to change the bereavement leave from 3 days to 5 days.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I don't mind to kind of explain to the board where we are and how we got here.
Let's see if there's a second for that motion and then open.
I would like to second that.
All right, Regent Babbage is second. Open the floor to discussion. Madam Counselor, would you like to state your thought process?
Sure, we will be happy to. So I think as you've seen, Ms. Norberg's memo does a great job summarizing the rationale of combining a number of these policies for the sake of efficiency and human resources. So currently on the books is bereavement leave at a total of 3 days. And then anytime an employee needs extra leave, extra accommodations as it relates to the classification of death and bereavement that would fall under that policy. Human Resources has very liberal policies as it relates to using extended sick days for additional time to grieve, or even extended vacation time. As we looked at and vetted the concept of adding an additional 2 days of bereavement leave, it is an issue that then has to be addressed on financial statements and carried as an additional 2 days of liability for all employees. And it's also a category of leave that simply isn't used that often, given the fact that employees get such lucrative sick days and vacation days. So that decision, we heard the people. We received a number of comments as this policy was vetted to look at the additional 2 days. We looked at reporting through IT, who also indicated the specific category of separate bereavement leave is just not utilized that often, given how we have to carry it on our books. And so it was for that reason, even though a number of comments came through asking for an additional 2 days of bereavement leave, it was for that reason the President's Council moved forward recommending the policy stay at the 3 days, because the additional days are addressed through other categories of leave as needed.
Mr. Chair, if I might, and Regent Gump, I apologize. I did have about an hour and a half dialogue with the staff council about a week and a half ago about this issue, and we talked a lot about this, and we came to a consensus on kind of the position we landed on with this policy, which would be to keep the 3 days intact with this flexible ability to grant those additional days because of the financial reporting and some of the other nuances that are in there. And so if that was not communicated to you, I apologize. I do apologize, but just for the purposes of information so that the Regents know this, on average across our entire university populations, our employees currently bank about 442 hours of sick time that they have at their disposal. On vacation, everyone is averaging about 100 hours of vacation that is currently there. Now, that's not to say that in any circumstance where someone needs additional time because they don't have it, I promise you that the culture, the institution we want to be is going to be one where we give that additional time. But this does create some additional reporting, some additional liabilities. And I think as we've looked across the state and looked at bereavement leave at other institutions, we are squarely in the majority of bereavement leave that's being granted by state institutions that we were able to gather that information on. So I think from a staff and administrative perspective, we would ask for the policy to go forward with the 3 days intact with the additional flexibility that's been granted in the policy language.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regent Gump, you have a motion for amendment on the floor. That motion has been seconded. You have the option of withdrawing the motion, or at this point, I can call for a vote.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I would ask to withdraw the motion.
So noted. Is there a second?
Second.
That motion is withdrawn. We now go back to the employee leave policy 8.2.2 as drafted and submitted to the board. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Castro. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion carries. Thank you all for, first of all, Regent Gump, thank you for raising your hand and calling the question, and to the team for addressing the question in a very professional manner. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
on the list, yes.
If I may, while we're on that subject, though, if we could make sure to document, though, in the minutes that discussion that those employees that may be on the fence with regards to leave will be given the appropriate care, that we try to provide additional days through other approaches, so that that's reflected in the minutes. I know we've got a virtual recording of the meeting and so forth, but I think that that's an important distinction that may be needed
Regent Mary and I fully expected to be in the minutes, having have been discussed, and I further expect that Regent Gump will carefully review the minutes and correct them if they are not correct.
Thank you.
And also, Dr. Marion, that language is in the policy to give HR and supervisors the flexibility to grant additional time as needed. So we'll make sure it all is congruent between the policy language and the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, next on the agenda is policy 8.3.3 regarding employee conduct. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Thank you, Regent Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Gump. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor of the, please say aye.
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 That motion carries. Thank you all. The last policy to vote on is policy 4.1.10 regarding first-time freshen admissions and the repeal of that policy. Motion for approval?
So be it.
Thank you, Regent Castro. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was first seconded by Regent Marion. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you all. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the Innovation Fund presentations and awards. Dr. Tom Martin will report. Dr. Tom.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chairman Diaz, President McFadden, members of the board. The $250,000 Board of Regents Innovation Fund that you established at the June 2018 meeting will consider today 3 innovative and entrepreneurial ideas from faculty and staff that address a problem or opportunity, offers a solution, and demonstrates an ability to generate a return of this board's investment in its people. The committee that the board constituted recognized the fiscal challenges of this academic year, but also appreciated the board's leadership and commitment to continue this funding. We considered a dozen applications requesting $600,000 in funding. We bring forward 3 of those applications requesting $115,000. One doubles down on a previous award, the expertise of our faculty, the Book Smart program, and student success. One leverages our natural areas with interdisciplinary education, research, and recreation for recruitment, retention, and persistence. And the third provides a creative, entrepreneurial, and commercial path for the next generation of artists and performers. And let me just add parenthetically that investments made by this board in the last 2 years for Dr. Lindsay Cormier and Dr. Margaret Denguri helped them receive $50,000 in funding from the National Institute of Health for work on their novel compound for diagnosing, treating, and monitoring triple-negative breast cancer. There were 87 applications for that NIH award. 20 of those made it to the final cut. Only 2 were from regional universities, and only 1 received that award. And only 1 was the first from a regional to ever receive that award, and that is from Dr. Cormier and Dr. Denguri. They also qualify for an additional $150,000 in funding over the next 2 years. They've written 2 more papers in the last year, filed an international patent, and we are currently engaged in licensing their technology. Funding for Regent Marion 2 years ago has also produced an international patent, a startup company, and other significant opportunities that I'll let Dr. Marion address if there's time. I would like to thank the committee representatives who are on their 3rd tour of duty, a collegial, cohesive, and decisive group after 3 years. That would include Justina Keithley, Dr. Javier Alvarez, Dr. Lindsay Cormier, Dr. Beth Poland, Dr. Richard Day, Dr. Brian Mackinnon, Chair Dana Bush, and Dean Ryan Baggett. I'd like to thank them for their service. So as a special thanks to each of you for your vision and continued support, as well as Provost Bakashnik and President McFadden for their early support and guidance of this initiative. Kelly Smith from EKU Libraries will be our first presenter, and I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Thank you very much. All right, let me get my screen shared. And let me start my presentation. Okay, well, it's great to be back here with you all. I wish I could be in person with you like last year. My name is Kelly Smith. I am here representing the library and the Faculty Senate Committee on Open Textbook Resources. First, I'd like to thank the board for awarding us the first round of grant funding last year. When I spoke to you this time last year, the pandemic hadn't yet hit Kentucky, and we were meeting in the newly renovated Powell building. So there have been quite a number of changes in the past year, as we all know. So a year later, after distributing 23 of your initial $25,000 investment, we have already saved students approximately $75,000. When all the faculty projects from round one are fully implemented, when all those books have been written and adopted in their classes, we project an annual savings of $327,000 for EKU students based on that one-time investment. Here are the recipients of last year's grant funding, as well as some other interested faculty and a student assistant who signed up to join the Open Educational Resource Professional Learning Community, or PLC, in the fall of 2020. We were pleased to see representation from multiple colleges and departments joining this professional learning community. On the following slides, I've included a few quotes from these faculty members as they reflected on the grant and on their PLC experience. When we envisioned this program, we knew that professional development for faculty would be integral to its success. I used openly available resources instead of commercial textbooks in presenting this OER, and that way I was modeling what they would be doing in their classes. So there were no costs associated with the PLC or with me working on this program. It was just part of my job. And the faculty found it very, very useful. Dr. Stumbo, who is authoring his own OER that won't be adopted until fall 22, has nonetheless already started using open teaching concepts in his classes now because of what he learned in the PLC. Dr. James Maples, who adopted existing OERs for his sociology classes last fall, quickly saw improved engagement and learning outcomes from his students. In his reflection on his experience in the PLC, he remarked that continuing to grow OER adoption on campus will save EKU funds and should be encouraged among other faculty. I'd like to walk through all of the awards that we gave last year, just to give you an idea of some of the highlights. So the Intro to African and African American Studies textbook, before they implemented their open textbook, they were averaging EKU students about $150 a class, and now the amount they pay is $0. So having already saved about 500 students $50,000, your investment last year paid for itself twice over on this slide. Dr. Jill Parrott and Dr. Dominic Ashby from the Department of English are using their $5,000 departmental award to hire student employees to assist with the creation of their text. These students are not only supporting the grant, but learning valuable skills about editing and publishing that they can use on their CVs after they graduate. This project is expected to save students $160,000 annually when it is adopted beginning in the fall of 2022. Dr. Lisa Day's Open Appalachian Study textbook has had over 60 submissions to date. She's in the process of reviewing those. It will be the first open textbook on Appalachian history, which will contribute not only to savings of our students, but it will be a valuable resource for everyone in this region. This project is projected to save students about $78,000 annually. Dr. David Stumbo is authoring a first of its kind textbook in the field of safety and security. He plans to integrate multimedia aspects in his book and includes students in the creation of supplementary materials. Dr. Erin Stevenson in the Department of Social Work adopted existing open textbooks that she found on the market into her social work courses beginning in the fall. She's already saved students at EKU $11,850 just in her 2 courses. Dr. James Maples implemented existing open textbooks in 2 of his courses and has already saved EKU students over $6,000. Dr. Ni Wang hoped to find existing OERs for her engineering graphics course, but was unable to identify an individual OER textbook. So she is working now to assemble a range of open resources to take the place of a textbook in her course. So this is an overview of all the projects we've had so far. I am here today to ask you for another round of funding to expand this project. Some might wonder, and many have asked me, with EKU BookSmart launched, why should we still pursue OER adoption? With the motivation of saving money for students off the table, how and why should we continue to commit time and resources to expanding this effort? Well, as Regent Diaz helped me so succinctly earlier in this meeting, this isn't a zero-sum game. This is a program that will work hand in hand with BookSmart. So I'm not quite as succinct as Regent Diaz, so I am going to briefly outline some of the other benefits that we see by expanding open textbook adoption. Students retain post-course access after the course is over to open educational resources. This benefit was noted by one of Dr. Stevenson's students and is a point that I hear repeatedly from both students and faculty in the favor of OERs. The course content is customizable. It can be edited or appended in whatever way faculty see fit to help their students achieve their learning goals. They give professors the ability to stay more up to date as they can edit the content as needed. OER curricula can be transferable in multiple ways. You can transfer content across multiple courses. For example, if we had an OER in statistics, that would allow every course on campus that uses a statistics segment to their course to include content from that book. As OERs are adopted more statewide, we are starting to take a coordinated approach. There's a program of the CPE called Affordable Learning Kentucky. I'm on that committee, and we are looking at future ways of having transferability between universities. If we adopt similar OERs across universities, that content will transfer when students transfer. Unlike the current BookSmart program, OERs provide free options for graduate level classes and dual credit students. So that fits a need in those areas. And then perhaps most importantly is the potential for metacognitive and active learning, which translates into higher success. An example is that instead of relying on test banks, students can develop quiz questions and other ancillary materials of their own. And providing students with such deep interaction with the material is a high impact pedagogical practice that has been shown to improve student learning outcomes. So really at the heart, what we're trying to do is improve outcomes for students. The Faculty Senate OER Committee hopes to double the amount of grants we distributed last year. We are asking for $50,000 to provide a second round of incentive grants during fiscal year 21-22. Added to the $2,000 that was remaining from last year's grant, this would give us a total of $52,000. And based on this, we estimate that with this one-time investment, we can save EKU students or the university, should the BookSmart program continue, $8.5 million over the next 5 years. That is the end of my prepared remarks. Does anybody have any questions?
Chair Diaz, you want to take questions at the end or one at a time?
No, I think the materials might get mixed up in my head if we try to do it all at the end. So let's do it one at a time. Okay. Any questions regarding OER and open source books and the proposal? Just a quick comment on this. I know that we've had some pretty innovative items in front of us, some pretty inspirational items from the work that Dr. Marion's doing to the work that is being done with the triple negative breast cancer drug that we're leading in. And all of those create opportunities for students to do some real research work. But I think this may be the one proposal that impacts students immediately and positively. So it's very welcome proposal. And as I know that it has, faculty members are free to use open source whenever they want. The question is, why should the board invest in it? And I appreciate the additional information that you've provided. But I'll reiterate that now, we, by going to Booksmart, we are saving students an average. Dr. McFadden, President McFadden, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's about $900 a semester that we're saving students.
Well, based on cost of attendance, Mr. Chair, it's $1,200, but yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. It's a $1,200 per semester savings for students.
Yeah.
A year. Thank you for the more that you do of this, the more it drives down the cost of our ability to save for students. So do we need a motion to approve this? Is that what we've done in the past?
I would like to make that motion, but also I would just like to say that the pedagogical as well as the collaborative impact of what you're doing is simply phenomenal to me, because I think that, as you pointed out, if there is a segment of a statistics piece in another class, if there is a segment of science or who knows, math, whatever it might be, that a professor would also be motivated to be looking at how he or she can get resources that are already there. And if you're using a textbook that is already 15 years old, we all know we've used textbooks for years and years in some of our classes. The opportunity to grow and expand your knowledge base, as well as your collaborative opportunity with other colleges, other instructors, et cetera, is simply phenomenal. So thank you for this and bringing it to us. I'm very excited. Thank you. So I would like to move.
Thank you, Regent Babbage.
Yes. Well, I would like to move approval if we're ready for that.
Indeed. No need to wait further. Regent Babbage has a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I will second it. I know you mentioned me, Chair Diaz, but I don't know of anything that's going to to our university this quickly. I think this is wonderful.
Thank you, Regent Marion. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good work on the OER. Please keep it up, and please keep up the partnership with Faculty Senate. I know that they're very passionate about the work, and I think it's good that we're utilizing them and that they were involved. So like I said, keep it up.
Thank you so much for your support.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Martin?
Thank you, Kelly. Dr. Stephen Richter.
All right, good morning. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you. I'll start with a question that I always ask my students when we meet on Zoom is, can you see my slides and can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Will there be a test after the presentation?
Maybe, there could be.
Not with approval.
Again, I'm appreciative of your time while I present our innovation project, leveraging the natural and historic capital of EKU South Campus for education, research, and public engagement. I'm Dr. Stephen Richter, Director of the Division of Natural Areas and Professor in Biological Sciences. Our proposal appears fairly simple in that it's a building and a trail, but drawing upon the expertise of our team and our partners, the opportunities for EKU and the region are exciting, and the returns on this investment will be significant. I'll begin by introducing our interdisciplinary team shown here, who represent faculty and staff across colleges, but also want to give some background about the Division of Natural Areas, which was established in the 1970s. Our mission is to manage and protect EKU's natural areas and make them available for instruction, research, and public use. We currently administer 3 areas. 2 were established in the 1970s, Maywoods and Lily Cornett Woods, and have classroom, lab, and lodging facilities to support faculty and students at EKU and other universities for college courses and for research. We also provide recreational opportunities and educational outreach for the public, and especially for K-12 schools throughout the region. So we have an extensive history of programming and in managing facilities and natural resources. The 3rd area, Taylor Fork Ecological Area, was developed more recently in 2010. And here are the locations of each of them for your reference. But back to Taylor Fork, that's the focus of our proposal. So this is a map of campus, and Taylor Fork is at the very southern tip. It's surrounded by pasture land, and it's a place where people go to hike and enjoy nature, especially during times of COVID. We've had an uptick in visitors. But more importantly, it's an experiential outdoor classroom. From its origins, Taylor Fork has been a student-driven enterprise. Students were key to its establishment. They write grants, management plans, shovel dirt, mow trails, organize outreach events that give them leadership, management, and communication experiences. Campus proximity and natural features make Taylor Fork a prime field trip destination for many courses, including aquatic entomology, plant systematics, introduction to graphic design, hydrology, and many others across campus. We use the field as a classroom. Students make observations, set up experiments, and collect data as active learners. While having a shed and picnic tables are helpful, a lack of facilities, namely a covered shelter and restrooms, limit field trips, which leads us to the first feature of our proposal, a solar-powered pavilion to be named the Wilder Outdoor Education Center in honor of Dr. Melinda Wilder, previous Director of Natural Areas and Professor Emeritus in Science Education. Here's an initial rendering of the building, but final design will be based on stakeholder input. It'll be somewhat similar to our pavilion at Maywoods, but will be off the grid and independent with the addition of solar panels and batteries and a gray water capture system for running water and restrooms. Based on an EKU facilities cost estimate, the total cost projected is $210,000. We've secured $160,000 thanks to a very generous donation and other matching funds. So our total request to the board today is for $50,000, which is less than 25% of the total cost. A crucial aspect of our project is connectivity to Taylor Fork and other hidden resources of South Campus, for Richmond, for campus, and for the greater community. While one can drive to Taylor Fork, we want an immersive experience. So South Campus is shown here within this circle and here in this aerial. And it includes the Meadow and Woodchip Trail, many of you might be familiar with, as well as the parking area for the Campus Recreation Challenge course, the American Chestnut Orchard, and Taylor Fork. The house icon shown here represents the location of our proposed structure, and the purple marker, really interestingly, is the gravesite of Hancock Taylor, who was a captain surveyor for George Washington and was in Kentucky when he was shot by Native Americans, died a few days later, and was buried at this site on campus. This is his last journal entry before his death, which placed him in Kentucky on July 7th, 1774. The recreational and educational connectivity that we'll establish will be a self-guided interpretive trail that will begin at the parking lot near the challenge course and traverse South Campus in these natural and historical assets to Taylor Fork. With the addition of this trail, we will have about 8 miles of connected trails on South Campus. With these amenities, both trail and building, Taylor Fork will become an even stronger natural extension of the EKU classroom, with an increase in diversity of programs, including first year and general education classes, and for model laboratory school. We'll also expand our current student internship program across more disciplines. Addition of facilities at Taylor Fork has the greatest impact to K-12 programming. Facilities at Maywoods and Lily Cornett Woods allow about 1,500 kids to get bused there each year for programming, which totals tens of thousands of kids reached over the years, thanks in large part to Dr. Wilder. This is a valuable and formative experience for them, and they remember these trips well into adulthood, providing a positive connection to EKU. Facilities will also allow us to increase our regional stewardship and outreach education. For example, to expand existing collaborations with the City of Richmond for nature programming, workshops, and recreation. Additionally, access to trails in the outdoors improve quality of life for our campus and the greater community, which builds positive relationships between the public and the university. In terms of enrichment, retention, and recruitment, research demonstrates that getting students outside improves their educational experience and enhances retention of information and GPA. When K-12 students receive science ed programming from a university, there is a strong documented link to learning, success, and recruitment. Research from these programs shown here found that participating high school students had an increased rate of passing AP courses, higher graduation rates, decision to attend college, especially in a STEM degree, and ultimately the number of students that applied to that particular university. Therefore, we will continue our K-12 outreach, but will invest heavily in AP Science and other high school programming to enhance recruitment opportunities. Although we don't have data for previous K-12 efforts at EKU, we're establishing a digital badging system to generate recruitment data. We'll issue badges that high school students can place into their digital backpack with other achievements that they can carry into their college career at Eastern. When they enroll here, their digital ID becomes their student ID. Also, in terms of recruitment, families with prospective students visiting campus for recruiting events like Spotlight that last only a few hours typically want to see more of campus life. Campus tours can include Taylor Fork, especially if students are planning to be majors in outdoor disciplines or in STEM disciplines like wildlife management, geosciences, recreation and park administration, environmental health science, and agriculture. They would see this as a place to get real life experience. For students of all majors, Taylor Fork is a place they can go and de-stress by taking a hike and enjoying nature. This venue and other natural assets would be great additions to the Eastern experience that Vice President Wasson described earlier in this meeting. With this new perspective of campus from Taylor Fork, I'd like to reiterate how this project will increase student retention and recruitment. Furthermore, the investment in a solar-powered facility at Taylor Fork brings parity to our 3 natural areas in terms of capacity for meaningful experiences. Of the 3,000 plus school children to whom we'll provide educational programming in the next 2 years, recruiting only 4 of them would repay this investment. We're confident recruitment numbers will be much higher and grow into the future, providing sustained revenue to the university. Our strong team has vast experience with acquiring external funding and managing complex projects. We will leverage your support to seek grants and expand partners for continued development in this system, including the National Science Foundation, Daughters of the American Revolution, the American Chestnut Society, and Campus Recreation, to name a few. I thank you again for your time, and I'd like to hear any questions or comments that you might have.
Mr. Chair?
Chair has stepped away just a minute. He had to take care of something, so we'll let the board members kind of move forward with questions and any action on this information.
All right. Well, I would like to just vouch for what Dr. Richter has said. I've had the privilege to visit Maywoods. It is an excellent environment, and I look forward to when my daughter is old enough to go there. And I appreciate Dr. Richter's carrying on the hard work that Dr. Wilder has done. So thank you.
I would also like to say it seems to go hand in hand with every single thing that we have talked about in this meeting, including the campus experience, the Eastern experience. If we make, we're talking about creating a healthy alternative to other things that students might choose to do, but also it just reminds people it is part of the Eastern experience in and of itself. And I love that idea, and it can be utilized in that way, perhaps. And also, I'm wondering if even groups like AmeriCorps and other groups that often come to different places to, share their talents and resources, if we became an outlet and therefore a recruiting opportunity, perhaps. I'm talking totally out of turn. I'm just familiar a little bit with what they've done other places, AmeriCorps workers. So perhaps there is an opportunity there too, to ultimately either recruit students or suggest that this is another opportunity for AmeriCorps. So I really love how it focuses on the health and well-being of our students as well, which is such a key component to everything we've talked about today. And God forbid we should ever have another pandemic, but even in the midst of life back to normal, this is such an opportunity for our students and for our grade school students and our community to enjoy. It's another gift we give back to the community. So I love it.
Thank you, Regent Babbage. I appreciate it. And I could talk for hours about this. I know it's been a long meeting, so I'll just quickly say we're really excited about opportunities to extend the trail outside of campus. We're in talks about that. We have internship programs across campus lined up for folks in history and other departments. And we have an AmeriCorps member now in the Environmental Education Leadership Corps that we host in natural areas. And she's really expanding our programming and outreach to the public. So yeah, we think with this, especially being so close to campus, it's more accessible. There's a whole lot more that we can do if we have this in place.
Yeah, if I may, can I motion to Vice Chair Long that we approve this item? I'm very enthusiastic. We've got a great natural areas program that's so unique to EKU. Other schools are envious. So I move for approval, Vice Chair Long.
I second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? I hear none. Motion carries. Let's, Tom, I assume that now you've got someone else to present for us.
Vice Chairman Long, thank you, Dr. Rector. Vice Chairman Long, I'd like to bring forth Dr. Joe Carucci from music.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
You're on.
Yep, I'm just trying to get my screen share up. It'll just take me a quick moment. Thank you all for your time. If we could just start with a little bit of student work.
There are things in this world, they chain us and blame us and hate us and tear us down. 'Cause our heads just swirl, these creatures in our minds that make us believe we're no good. Creatures around every corner. Creatures. Don't know if they're gonna stick around. But see them going down. Creatures.
So I am here today to introduce to you a brand new addition to the Foster Music Camp, and that is the Foster Virtual Commercial Music Camp. The music you heard was written by junior music major Tori Sizemore. Tori is a leader in our Echoes a cappella ensemble, and she always shines in a lead role in our musical production. Foster Music Camp and the EKU School of Music would like to offer a virtual commercial music camp to help young adults like Tori find ways to better record, share, and monetize their music in the 21st century. Our goal is to create a sustainable virtual commercial music camp that, one, meets the needs of our community. We can't deny that the pandemic has been devastating to the entertainment and education industries. We are going to provide students with an avenue to create a job for themselves, not just get a job, but create a job, and focus on applicable skills, including how to think like an entrepreneur. Our second goal is to create a natural extension for Foster Music Camp and the EKU School of Music. The School of Music has made commercial music a top priority. Our bluegrass ensemble and steel band perform internationally, and our musical theater and Echoes ensemble are staples in our university and local community. The 2021 Foster Camp plans to offer 3 programs in June. The first is a commuter camp, which is very much like our traditional residency camp. The second is a virtual music camp, which is based on online individual instruction, master classes, and collaborations. And the third is this virtual commercial music camp. This is for participants age 16 to 26 that are interested in pop music, country, R&B, rock, EDM, anything that falls under that umbrella of popular or commercial music, or a fusion of these styles that creates a completely unique and innovative sound. We will be offering masterclasses, mentoring, digital collaborations, all from June 20th to 26th. We will focus on utilizing do-it-yourself recording methods and tools, and various streaming services to market and monetize your music and grow your audience. I've discussed this with members of our community, and I've given a survey to some of my music industry students. Many are interested in the experience, and we think this has great potential for growth. Participation hinged on quality instruction. Personnel are the key to success in this camp, and it makes it a little bit more expensive than the other camps. We believe this is something that will sustain Foster Music Camp over time. We consider this a pilot year, and prices will increase and sponsorship will be pursued over the years. The budget I am presenting is based on 5 instructors. 2 of the instructors are affiliated with EKU, and 3 are independent contractors. Some of the credentials of these instructors are Grammy nominations. They produced music for Ringo Starr and collaborated with Chris Stapleton, The Temptations, musical director for the Judds, very notable credentials. We will also need a technical support staff that will help our instructors and students collaborate. I've asked for a guest artist budget of $7,000, and I've already confirmed the participation of guest artist Jeff Coffin, who is the saxophonist for the Dave Matthews Band, as well as Lee Thomas Miller, who is an EKU graduate. He has 7 #1 country singles and has music sung by folks like Brad Paisley and Tim McGraw. And then I've asked for $1,000 towards marketing for a total expenses of $25,000. Here is a quick snapshot of our projected tuition revenue. We would like to start tuition for this pilot year in June 2021 at $225. This is less than $40 a day, and we think that this creates a better value than other camps. It also will help us meet the demographic and needs of Eastern Kentucky and Central Kentucky. And focusing on this core constituency will help us build a strong and sustainable community. We are expecting between 25 and 50 participants for the first year. With 25 participants, our tuition revenue would be $5,625. 50 participants would be a tuition revenue of $11,250. We will increase tuition over the first 5 years so that by June 2025, tuition would be set at $350. This is still affordable. It's less than $60 a day, but we believe that this is more in line of what our service provides. With 50 participants, this would bring in a projected tuition revenue of $17,500. And with 60 students, which would not be unheard of, certainly, that would bring a tuition revenue of $21,000. We expect to be able to completely pay back this initial investment after our 3rd year, and from that point on, it will be completely self-sustainable. We recognize that Foster Music Camp already contributes to recruitment at EKU in a very significant way, and we think that the virtual commercial music camp will help expand our reach. It will help us highlight commercial music options for students who are not aware that there are these options at EKU. It will help us welcome non-traditional students, those who may have entered the workforce and not realize they wanted a degree and possibly a degree in music. It will help us expand the radius as both a virtual camp and with the notoriety of our guest artists and instructors. Here's a quick snapshot of what you would see for daily activities. We will start each morning with a masterclass focused on do-it-yourself methods to create, monetize your music. For example, a student like Tori has produced her music on GarageBand, which is a digital audio workstation, and she released it on her website. This is an excellent, excellent start. But the icon you see on your screen, the image above, is Reaper. Reaper is also a digital audio workstation, and it has many more tools than GarageBand. You can produce a much stronger product with Reaper, and it's free as an app online. So this would be a great way for her to improve her product. Below that is Bandcamp. Bandcamp is a website that has social media functions, so it helps you to build your audience. And there's also some unique ways to monetize your music. For example, you can set the price for your audience to purchase your music, or you can allow them to set the price. So these might be stronger ways for Tori to produce and release and monetize her music. During these masterclasses, we'll also talk about things like networking, organizing a band, and songwriting skills. Also during the day, we will have ensemble collaborations virtually. We will have one-on-one instructor mentoring time. we will have some guest artist time for Lee and Jeff Coffin to present successful traits that they feel helped push their career to a new level. And then every day we will have a music sharing time where students and instructors will share the music that they are creating and the music that inspires them. Just a very brief summary. We think that this Foster Virtual Commercial Music Camp will be an excellent revenue source in the long term for Foster Music Camp. We think it's a great service to our community, and it meets the mission and vision of our School of Music. And then it's a great recruitment opportunity for Eastern Kentucky University. So thank you for your time, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the professor?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Regent Gump.
If I could just make a comment, I have to say I have fond memories of having attended Foster Music Camp many, many years ago. And I believe it is a good conduit for student recruitment. And I'm excited to see the proposed expansion of the program.
And I hate to keep being the one talking here, but I want to say that my freshman year roommate at, or sophomore, whichever year, she went to the Foster Music Camp. And what she was able to talk to me about all this music and now what you're talking about in terms of helping students realize that they can monetize their gifts in such a profound way that I would think parents would be, cheering that they have a right-brained child who really wants to use their many gifts and then do something good with them and collaborate with others. I love the idea. Thank you very much. I can only imagine the programs we didn't get to hear about. Let me just say that. These are so impressive. Thank you.
Regent Babbage, let me say that you should never hesitate to share your passion and love for all things Eastern. Please share freely and openly. And I agree. Look, math, we often hear about universal languages, and you talk about math being a universal language, but music is also a universal language, and music is also something that unites people. Music is part of our everyday life, and it's a big part of the Eastern experience. Our campus is set up to have musical events. The center of our campus is an outdoor amphitheater, right? It's the Ravine. Music is in our DNA at EKU, and it's really cool to see this type of a proposal before us. And I hope that as we move to the E3 initiative, the exceptional Eastern experience, that music is a big part of that for our students, and that when our freshman class graduates 4 years from now, or 3 years from now, if they want to overachieve, that they look back at their time at Eastern and say, there were some exceptional musical performances that I saw as a student. So with that, I asked board members if they have any other comments or questions about this proposal.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to add a comment that this is another entrepreneurial pathway that this board is supporting, both for the advocacy and through their finances. You take someone like Dr. Marion in previous years, who's been an award winner, his students working with him on Coley Glow, that inspires the entrepreneurial mindset for these students. We want our students to be thinking entrepreneurially, and this is just that pathway in the music that Dr. Carucci is offering them. And so this is a really wonderful opportunity for our students.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion for approval?
So be it.
Thank you, Castro. I see a second from Regent Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Professor, that motion carries. Thank you for the proposal and good speed on the work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Dr. Martin, is that the balance of our alumni or Innovation Fund presentations and awards?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the time, and thank you for your continued support. We look forward to doing this again next year.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a presentation from Athletics Director and Vice President Matt Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I guess 9 more minutes I can say that. Good morning to the entire members of the board. It's great to see your faces this morning. Trying to get my screen share set up myself right here. There we go. As I'm kind of anxious with anticipation of 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern tonight. So excited to watch our men's basketball team compete in Indiana, and I hope that you'll be able to stay up. If you're not able to make the trip, you'll be able to stay up till almost 1 o'clock in the morning to watch us and hopefully be victorious. And so I was joking with Dr. Martin a few moments ago. I know that I'm probably the last thing, one of the last things standing in between this group setting a record for expediency and time on a board meeting. And so I'll try to be quick, but there's certain things. I know the ASUN piece is something that we all want to talk about, but there are a few certain things that I would love to share with you. I never want to waste an opportunity to brag on our student athletes, our coaches, our staff, and the many accomplishments that they've been able to accomplish. First off, I do want to share an academic update. We will be putting this out to the public here in just a few weeks. It took us a while to get our audited numbers, but fall 2020 resulted in the 18th consecutive semester of our student athletes earning a 3.0 or better overall GPA. 246 of 349 student athletes registered a 3.0 or better, so about 71% almost of our student athlete population earning a 3.0 or better, with 58 student athletes compiling a 4.0 perfect GPA. And so incredibly proud of them. 5 teams recorded their highest ever fall term team GPAs, those being women's golf, women's cross country, volleyball, women's basketball, and men's cross country. And we had 13 of our 16 teams earning a 3.0 or better team GPA. I have to give all the credit in the world. Monica Banbell, director of our Bratsky Student Athlete Academic Success Center, her staff, the partnership that we have with Dr. Gil Hunter, Dr. Wasson, our partnership with Student Success, and an outstanding faculty on this campus who support the academic excellence and the academic pursuits of our student athletes and our student body in general. That is a credit to them, and I'm very, very proud of our student athletes for achieving the way that they are in the classroom. From a competitive standpoint, we do have 3 regular seasons. I guess you could say 5 regular seasons, including the unique seasons that our cross country and indoor student athletes have recently completed. But I'm proud of the fact that our women's basketball program increased their conference win total this year by 3. We went from 5 last year to 8 this year, which represents the most conference wins since the 2015-16 season. Coach Samantha Williams continues to do a great job rebuilding and restoring that program to a level that we want it to be and it deserves to be. Our men's basketball program, again, will open up in the quarterfinal round tonight against Austin Peay in the first round of the OVC tournament. And we're at this point because of a 21-win regular season, which I'm very, very proud to say was the most wins of any Division I school in the entire state of Kentucky this year. That was part of those 21 wins were 15 conference wins, which is a school record. And I'm also proud of the fact that we won 8 conference road games. And I think that's a testament to the resolve and the spirit of our men's basketball student athletes. Just like Coach Williams, Coach A.W. Hamilton is a rising star, and what he's done in 3 short seasons, making marked improvement every single year is nothing short of amazing. Our cross country and track and field programs, specifically our cross country program, we wrapped up this week with the conference portion of that schedule, where our women's cross country team finished first in the conference at the Austin Peay hosted OVC cross country championship. Our men's cross country program finished as the runner up. So incredibly proud of both of those programs. If I'm not mistaken, I think each of one of those results means that in the past 15 years, our men's and women's cross country programs have won 14 of the 15 OVC championships that have been held on cross country, and on the women's side, 34 of 42. And so there was an era of dominance as we depart the OVC now, but very proud of both of those teams and going out at or near the top. Ahmed and Laura, you can see, were the individual winners at the OVC Cross Country Championships. And even more, Ahmed will actually be competing this Saturday as an individual at the NCAA Indoor Championships, which will be held at the University of Arkansas, and he'll be competing in the 3,000 meters. And so we're incredibly proud of Ahmed and look forward to him continuing to get better and continuing to do great things here for EKU. And also have to note that I'm very proud of Coach Corey Erdman for being recognized this year as the Women's Cross Country Coach of the Year. We have, I think the point that was made a little bit earlier in today's meeting, with the exception of football, the spring semester has certainly been a busy one for us while we kind of come to the conclusion of our basketball, our cross country seasons and our indoor seasons. We're now in a point where men's and women's golf, softball, baseball, volleyball, our men's and women's outdoor track and field, and our beach volleyball teams will either be competing or will soon be competing this spring. I am very proud to announce that we will be hosting a collegiate outdoor track and field meet here on campus at our newly resurfaced track on April 16th and 17th. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the first time that we've hosted an outdoor track and field collegiate meet since 2014. So that's a testament to Coach Erdman for having the will and the desire to get that done, and our staff, Mark Howard, our event operations staff and game management staff, for being willing to doing the things that make that possible. I have to give all the credit in the world to, is in a busy semester as part of a unique year. I have to give a ton of credit to our student athletes, our coaches and our staff for their resolve, their determination to make this year possible. You know, we talk a lot about expect to win, and I'm the first person that will tell you that I hate to lose. I'm as competitive as anybody that I've ever known. But admittedly, I even find success is being able to compete in this unusual year, in this unprecedented year. And I wanted to point out that we've had, in the fall, we played 9 football games in the fall. Our women's basketball program played 24 regular season basketball games. They did not play in an MTE, and so 24 was the max number of games I believe that they could play. Our men's basketball team did compete in a multi-team event, which allowed them to play 27 games. Our indoor track and field teams each competed in 5 different meets, and our cross-country teams competed in 2 meets aside from that championship. And not one game that we've had scheduled has been canceled during the 2020-2021 athletics year. We have had some that had to be rescheduled, but we are at or near the max numbers of opportunities for our teams to be able to compete. Since January the 1st, we've hosted 22 athletics competitions on campus. Between this Saturday and May the 22nd, we'll host another 50. So it speaks to the volume of activity that we've had on campus, but it's not possible without our sports medicine staff, Jeff Carrico, Mark Howard, a group of campus experts who have assisted us every step along the way, Dr. Marion included, Regent Marion included, who has been there to give guidance and counsel when it was sought. But again, I want to give all the credit in the world to our student athletes, our coaches, our staff, our sports medicine staff, our campus experts for just allowing us the opportunity to compete. We're one of very few that's had the opportunity to do it the way that we've done it. And again, I think that speaks to the spirit of quality people here at EKU. Just to give a little bit of a generic state of athletics, as I typically do in these meetings, I do want to point out the fact that we were able to enhance very recently two Begley gymnasiums into indoor synthetic turf and plyometrics agility mat rooms. If you haven't had the chance to get into the Begley building to look at those spaces, I would encourage you to do so. I think we made them better, and we became a better athletics department because of that. And I'll touch on another facility project here in just a moment. But a couple revenue numbers that I'd like to point out to you. Year to date, we have seen a 41% increase in total gifts to the Colonel Club this year, and a 58.7% increase in total gifts to athletics, and that includes sport-specific giving. So very encouraged by those numbers. Most recently, and I think this is there is a correlation with the announcement that we will be moving to the ASUN. But January and February gifts were up 167.6% over the same 2 months during fiscal year 20. So again, Grant Stepp, Robert Sampson, Corey Mills, so many different others. Our partnership with Bettina and Dan McBride, very encouraged in the direction that we're going there, but we're just scratching the surface of what we're capable of. And we look forward to being able to promote and report positive gains moving forward. Our football renewal process for season tickets is ongoing. I think you will see that I think we've improved our timeline, giving ourselves much more time for those renewals. We've been able to introduce a early renewal and just a renewal benefits package for our season ticket holders. And that'll give us much more time to be able to sell tickets for this fall and what we hope will be a max capacity Roy Kidd Stadium. I will say that we continue to be guided, at least I continue to be guided. And it's hard to believe that it's been a year since I had the chance to report to you the first time last February. But by your charge to improve our marketing efforts, to increase student attendance, to engage in community service, and then make sure that our facilities looked and felt the way that it is that you wanted them to feel and that I expect them to feel. We continue to focus on our communications efforts. We continue to focus on our analytics efforts, making sure that we're being driven by numbers and success and evaluating ourselves based on those things as well. And so, but a lot to be encouraged about. In terms of facilities, again, I do want to point out, and I got to give credit to Corey Rush, our creative content specialist, who I had to rush out and get me a good picture of the facility this morning as the sun was rising. But this is a picture of our brand new beach volleyball facility. And we will be hosting a grand opening when we play at home for the first time against Morehead State on April the 20th. And so please mark that on your calendars, and we'll be sharing details about that event in the next few weeks. Just to give a little bit of an update on the state of campus recreation. Again, Mr. Pointer pointed out financially, we're in a little bit better position, or we're in good position, but maybe tracking a little bit behind where we were at this point of last year. However, the use of the facility as far as our students go is largely on pace with last semester. We're experiencing about 3,500 visits per week. We have seen a little bit of a drop in kind of those community memberships, and you know, certainly COVID has played into that, and we'll keep an eye on it and continue to try to enhance that facility and its operation. A couple points of pride that I want to point out. And I can't recall, I don't believe that I shared this with you at the December board meeting, but Campus Rec and the Esports Club team recently completed the first ever Special Olympics Unified Champion Esports Tournament, which, you know, paired our club members with Special Olympics athletes to compete in a single elimination Rocket League tournament. That event, a silent climb that was tailored towards deaf and hard of hearing individuals being able to get on our rock wall. Ladies climb events continue to demonstrate an emphasis on inclusion that we're making in that effort or in that area. And Justin and his staff continue to do a good job in spite of the circumstances. But I know something that everyone wants to talk about, and certainly I appreciate the ratification of the board this now afternoon. But back in January, we were very fortunate to announce that we will be joining the ASUN conference effective July 1 of 2021. For us, again, I think it's been well noted at this point in time. This is an opportunity to join dynamic, growing public and private institutions, conference members that have a similarity of mission, a similarity of vision, and a similarity of even budgets. This is an FCS to FCS move for us. We are joining a conference that is located within in and around major markets in a growing southeast region of the United States, which will pay huge dividends for us in terms of our student recruitment efforts, our alumni engagement efforts with the 100,000 living alumni living in that footprint. It will pay dividends for us in terms of the student athlete recruitment piece, being able to get into a very fertile recruiting area there, as well as our student athlete and fan experiences. The fact that we'll be competing and playing and traveling to destination locations. In terms of mitigating cost, I know that is a question that I've been asked many times. The entry fee to join the ASUN is $5,000, and we'll pay that over the next 4 years, which is $1,250 annually for the next 4 years. Compared to other teams that have joined the league over the last several years or over the last decade, that number has been in the $650,000 to $700,000 range, and we got a significant discount because of the desire of the ASUN to get in the business of football, to be able to sponsor football, and there was an incentive for us to join at that low entry fee amount. Our annual dues and our operating assessments will be on par with where we currently are in our current conference, and any travel, the perceived travel increases, those will be offset by very divisional, very regional play. Everything has been discussed from 2 6-team divisions where you could see kind of north and south how that would look, to 3 4-team divisions. And again, you can kind of, just use your eyes there and see how those divisions might shake out. And so we're very encouraged by that, but at the same time, we're excited to give our student athletes great experiences and great opportunities in different areas. And then the opportunity for growing revenues. One of the things that we're discussing as a group of football ADs is the idea for an Atlanta Classic, where we could partner with another conference for neutral site games in and around Atlanta, where corporate sponsorships and other revenue streams would be available to us. The opportunity to renegotiate our ESPN Plus or other media rights agreements, we think are going to produce some revenues for us that do not currently exist. Part of the football piece is a 1-year football scheduling alliance, not an affiliation agreement necessarily, but a scheduling alliance with the Western Athletics Conference, where 3 schools from the ASUN and 4 schools that are entering the WAC this upcoming fall will play one another in a round robin format, and the winner, based on winning percentage, will be eligible for automatic qualification into the 2021 FCS playoffs. Our goal all along has been to grow to 6, 7, 8 full football members, but there are certain logistical challenges that made that impossible by this upcoming season. And so I'm very encouraged. I think our board chair, in my consultation with him and our president, is encouraged about the situation in which we find ourselves right now. And I do want to point out that AQ will be owned by the ASUN, which means the ASUN will have control of it in 22 and 23. It should, a waiver or anything like that be necessary. To the point of football and kind of why we made this move again, I'm probably saw this come out last week, but we do have an 11-game football schedule that has recently been finalized. 6 home games highlight that schedule, 5 of which will be played in the months of September and October. October 9th versus Abilene Christian will be our homecoming game. You'll see with schools like Austin P that we're able to protect long-standing traditional rivalries while at the same time creating new ones. And a purpose of the ASUN, a big incentive of the ASUN, was to give us that schedule flexibility to allow us to have home games and meaningful home games early in the year when we want them. And I think that schedule that we were able to put together does just that. So with that, I will turn it over to you for that ratification and any questions that you may have.
Before I call for a motion in ratifying the agreement, I do want to share that the agreement was carefully vetted by counselor and others, and I do believe it is advantageous to the university. It is also the same agreement that the other institutions had signed, but for changes in the name of the parties. It was a situation in which the Jacksonville State, Central Arkansas, and EKU collaborated in negotiating the agreement with the ASUN after it was obvious that the 3 of us were going to transition and the OVC had been notified. In any case, I also want to share, first of all, to the athletics director, good job on everything that we've done this year. One of the incidental benefits, decisions have consequences. And one of the things that occurred to me as I was listening to some of the things that were transpiring is that it seems that the athletics directors in the ASUN want to do business a little differently, in the sense that they want the home teams to be responsible for procuring the hotel for the visiting teams. I think the way we do business right now is that EKU is responsible for procuring hotels everywhere that they visit. And I thought about that, and what occurred to me is that if we are responsible for procuring the hotel for the home team, we can ensure that those hotel stays and those hotel nights are nights that are in Richmond, as opposed to having the visiting team stay in Lexington or elsewhere. Well, if we're driving that conversation, we have the ability to negotiate in terms of scale with a local hotel chain. We have the ability to impact the bed tax that immediately impacts the tourism board here in Richmond and drive commerce here to Richmond. So these little things that they just seem like they're minuscule. They add up, and they do have an impact locally that they can be favorable to the community. Same thing with having more opportunities for compete earlier in the year. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to look at that and say those are football games, but realistically, they're not just football games. Those are weekends in which we get to showcase our campus. They're weekends in which our band gets to showcase their talent. They're weekends in which our dance teams, our cheerleaders get to go out and perform. They're weekends that our Greek life gets to be on campus and to display their colors and their camaraderie. So all of that really is part of that bigger initiative to have the exceptional Eastern experience. So I think that if there's anything that I'm taking away from this board meeting, it's that the alignment within the different divisions of our campus, it's just palpable. And my hat's off to you, Mr. President, for bringing the group together, for having that vision and seeing it through to where it's clearly reflected in each of the departments. And you've heard it from this morning from Dr. Wasson, you've heard it from the athletics director, and I know that those things don't happen by accident. There's meetings that are happening all the time. There's conversations, Mr. President, that you're a part of to help drive that culture and those expectations. So I thank you for the care and attention that you're putting into leading the institution and to working with your cabinet to drive the agenda. With that, I'll be quiet and ask if there is a motion for approval of the ASUN agreement.
So moved.
Got a motion from Regent Collins, a second from Regent Long. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you all. We have one more item on the agenda. I think this one will be a quick one, an obvious one. Treasurer Pointer, would you take the floor and talk about the resolution to approve COVID-related funding sources? Or I suppose sure. I could cut you out quickly and say that there's a recovery package, 2 recovery packages that were approved last year. There's a recovery package that it seems to have gone through the House this year and the U.S. House of Representatives and will be before the Congress. We know that there are funding opportunities within the recovery packages. We want to make sure that the staff have the authority to pursue any and all available funding resources directed to higher education. And so the resolution that you have before you today for consideration would authorize the president and his team to pursue funding for COVID-related funding for university activities together with all auxiliaries. Barry, how did I do in summarizing that?
I can't add anything to that. That was an excellent summary of it. And again, with these relief packages that come out, sometimes there are opportunities for unique operations that we have, and we want to be able to take advantage of those as they may present themselves. So I call your attention to the resolution on page 90 and seek your approval.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval of the resolution.
All right, I've got Regent Babbage. I saw you raise your hand, but I heard Regent Collins. So Regent Collins has the motion. Regent Long has the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Treasurer Pointer, please go out and get as many grant resources as you can under the recovery packages.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I don't believe that we have any. Yes.
venue package. I don't know where we will or not. I'd already talked to Barry about that particular one because there's a closed venue. They haven't gotten how to file for it yet. That was in the D27 package, but I'm hoping that the arts, because that would really help us with our budget over there also. So.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think there's something for WEKU that we're pursuing as well, correct?
That's correct.
Excellent. Okay, I don't think there's any new business unless anyone in the group has something that they would like to bring up at this time. There being none, there's not a need for executive session, so I'm looking for, yes, sir? All right, looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion by Regent Babbage, a second by Regent Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for your service to our institution. And I remain excited and inspired by the work that everybody does. And good luck tonight to the basketball team. May they win to play yet another day. You all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.